Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel, brought to you in part by our friends over at Mint Mobile. I am, of course, John Campea, and we are so glad that you guys are here. We got a lot of stuff we're going to be talking about here today. Arnold Schwarzenegger's got a new action comedy series coming out. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once sweeps up at the SAG Awards. Maybe the greatest sitcom of all time. Schitt's Creek might be making a return. Mandalorian is coming back. Are we going to find out about Grogu? The Last of Us Episode 7 happened. We're going to talk about that. Vegas betting odds are out on the Oscars now. Who are the biggest favorites? Who are the biggest underdogs? And Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania has now won the gold medal of being the biggest second weekend drop of MCU history. That and a bunch of things more. And we're so glad you're here. Joining me today to talk about this stuff, we got Robert Meyer Burnett. Sitting over there, we've got Ray Ora. Sitting back behind him, we've got Taylor Gonzalez. And of course, running the show today, Jonathan Boyko. And of course, Chris Carr is joining us here today. And most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for taking time out to join us today. We're going to go over a bunch of main topics. Second half of the show, we're going to open up the super chats, go to your live comments and questions. It's going to be a packed show here today. So guys, let's get things started off with this. You know, we've got a big month coming up in March, huge month. I'm actually going to go see Creed 3 tonight. So keep your guys' eyes open later tonight for my Out of the Theater, probably mine and Ray's Out of the Theater review of Creed 3 a little bit later tonight. But one of the big movies that I'm really looking forward to, because I loved the first one, was Shazam! Fury of the Gods. I love the first Shazam, really looking forward to the second one. Now, early last week, we talked about the fact that the early box office projections for Shazam! Fury of the Gods are not great. As a matter of fact, at the high end, it had Shazam! Fury of the Gods coming in just a hair, like 1 million short of what the first Shazam made. Well, Box Office Pro has adjusted their projections, and it don't look great. Let's go over to the classroom here just for a second here. So, Shazam 1, all right, its opening weekend, it made $53 million. Okay, so there we go. Now, you know this isn't going to be good when I bring up Morbius. Morbius, on the other hand,
great,
which did fantastic. Morbius made $39 million. Well, right now, Shazam 2, their projections are, get this, as low as $35 million, going all the way up to just $44 million. 35 million all the way up to just 44 million. Now at 44 million, that means that it will come in well below what the first Shazam did, well below now. Before, the top end was right at about almost par with Shazam 1. Now, even if it hits the top end of their projections, they're saying it's going to come in almost $10 million less. At the midpoint or a little bit lower, Shazam! Fury of the Gods, there's a very real possibility here it's going to open lower than Morbius. And people wondered why they need to reboot the DCEU. At any rate, they're looking, it could theoretically open lower than Morbius. This ain't great. And it breaks my heart because I think the first Shazam movie is the third best DCU movie. Obviously, number 1 for me is Man of Steel. Number 2 is James Gunn's Suicide Squad. Number 3 is the first Shazam movie. But this is not looking good at all. And I don't think it's a coincidence. And we're not going to go into detail on this right now because we're talking more about it later. But I do not believe it is a coincidence that Ant-Man Quantumania ended up being the biggest second weekend drop in the history of the MCU, which we will go into more a little bit later, and Box Office Pro readjusting their box office forecasts. I'm sure it's not the only factor. I'm sure it's not. But let's face it, with the recent stream of okay superhero movies, like I've always said for the longest time, Rob, I do not believe in superhero fatigue. Because how long have we had cop movies? How long have we had medical drama TV shows? How long have we had whatever? People don't get tired of something if the something is consistently good. That's why we went through a decade plus of comic book movies just being on the rise, because they were just cranking out great stuff. Well, at least Marvel was consistently cranking out great stuff. And every once in a while, DC would put out something really good too. But, I mean, lately it's just been a string of okay to not so okay movies. And therefore, I personally, now this is pure speculation and theorizing on my part, to be clear, but I personally don't think it's a coincidence. And I think there is a tie here between like Ant-Man showing a disappointing second weekend. Again, we'll go into that in detail later. And Shazam's box office forecast dropping a bit here. So I am really concerned because I'm very excited to see this movie. I love the first one. Anyway, Rob, you see that Shazam's box office projections have dropped between 15 and 20% here. What do you make of that, and what do you attribute it to?
Well, it's like what we've been talking about over the last couple weeks in terms of where we're at as far as comic book movies are concerned. We talked about the Shazam trailer not showing any of Billy Batson in it.
Right.
And I think...
Or at least very little.
Very little. And also, the same thing is kind of true of Quantumania. But what is the reason... What is this movie going to give me that I haven't been getting from other superhero movies? Specifically, okay, we've got 2 female antagonists. Good actresses. Love to see Helen Mirren. So they fight them. But what else is in the movie? Like, when you go see Captain America Civil War, there is an ethical and moral conundrum at the heart of that film between our 2 favorite characters, Steve Rogers and Tony Stark. That's a story that I want to know the outcome of. I look at this trailer. There is no question in my mind that Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu are going to get defeated. And beyond that, what's this movie about? Why am I seeing it? What am I going to get from it when it's over? And I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe was good at providing, at least it was good at providing something more than a superhero movie. It was a movie about people that you cared about, that were going through interesting things. This movie, to me, looks, okay, it's your standard superhero movie. I think the same thing was true of what happened with Black Adam. Okay? There's the Justice Society. There's Black Adam. He believes in killing people. But beyond that, what do we get?
You know what's funny to me? Let me ask you this, because I don't have the answer to this, so I'm asking you. It's funny because you mentioned looking at the trailer for this and you're saying it doesn't really look like it's offering me anything new. And I don't disagree with you. But it makes me wonder, a trailer that came out recently that got, including me, a lot of people very excited, was the new trailer for Fast and the Furious 10, right? It is literally a recycle of a previous Fast and Furious movie. A new bad guy who has a familial connection to a previous bad guy, and they're back for revenge. They did that with the Shaw brothers already. It's the exact same thing, and yet people like me and others are getting really excited about it, even though it just looks like it doesn't look like it's offering anything
new. The Rosencrantz and Guildenstern of the the Fast and the Furious franchise.
I think the difference is it's the car, it's the mayhem.
Oh, okay.
When you get different kinds of mayhem with cars, like, and they were doing look, when you see that helicopter gag, I'm like going, come on. At the same time, the 8-year-old in me goes, F yeah, dude. I want to see that car smash those helicopters together.
But I kind of felt like that when he punched a dragon through a building in the Shazam trailer.
Yeah, but I
had a little bit of that too.
Yeah, but I it's not I think it's not the thing here. Look, here's the thing. There's enough characters in the Fast and Furious movie that I like. There's like 10 different characters, and there's Jason Momoa, and Helen Mirren's in that movie too.
Yep.
And it's just I need to know that there's something more going on.
All right.
And I think the Fast and Furious movies have at least the different kinds of vehicular mayhem that you haven't seen before.
Chris, we're seeing now that Shazam! Fury of the Gods, the forecast is taking a significant drop. Now they're saying as low as 35 million, which will put it below Morbius,
which
your
is
favorite.
Bananas.
And well short, even at the top end, well short of the first Shazam. What do you attribute this to?
I mean, the chat's really said it so well. It's not superhero fatigue, it's mediocrity fatigue. We don't want to go to the movies to see something that's, it's so expensive. It's really costly to go to the movies. If you're going to get snacks, if you're going to get seats, if you're going to go at night, it costs a lot of money, especially if you've got a family with you that you're paying for, and you don't want to spend your money on something that's just okay. When we go to the movies, we want it to be like the AMC opening with Nicole Kidman. We want to have a really magical experience where heartbreak feels good and all that jazz. If it's just okay, what's the point of going there? You could have stayed at home and streamed something. I'm still blown away by something being lower than Morbius. I still think that this has potential. I love the Shazam movie. I really love that first one. I think it's so fun. I think it's so wonderful. It's such a great adaptation of that character and comic and everything too. And, you know, Logan's going to go see this movie like 15 times because of Helen Mirren. So we're going to do our part.
Some people sneak hot dogs and candy bars into theaters. Logan's going to be sneaking in bottles of lotion. Just
Oh
saying.
my God. You know,
He's
John,
a gentleman. He's a gentleman.
can you put the picture that you just had of the Marvel family up standing backstage or whatever?
Oh no! Well, yeah, the Shazam family.
Yeah,
The
pardon
Shazam
me,
family,
the
yeah.
Shazam family.
Yeah.
Pardon me, Marvel. I say Marvel. I grew up with it as the Marvel family, but yeah.
Give
Let me see, I'll
go
find
ahead.
it.
Well,
Just
I was gonna,
continue.
okay, that family, those superheroes. I'm interested in that pantheon of characters.
Right.
Show me that movie. I want to see what does that family do now that they're this way. If they showed me a bunch of interaction, great. I love the way those suits look. I love the
The
characters.
suits look great.
They look great. I love Zachary Levi. I want to know what a family of superheroes like this, what do they do? How do they interact? How do they talk to one another when they're in their forms like this? That's what this movie has that the other superhero movies don't have. And they didn't lean into this enough when they're trying to sell it to me.
All right, guys, the question is for you. The box office forecast for Shazam Fear of the Gods has taken a big dip, despite the fact that I'm really looking forward to it. I don't care what anybody else says.
I
I'm
know.
excited about this movie, but the forecasts are taking a drop. What do you attribute that drop in the forecast being? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this next topic here, shall we? And that one is this. He's back. And you knew they had to put it in the trailer somewhere. But Arnold Schwarzenegger has his first ever series coming out, which I believe is called Fubar.
Yeah.
Also not to be mistaken of the early 1990s movie of the same name. And of course, it is just a teaser, but even a teaser, he had to say, I'm back. So you knew that was coming, but whatever. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't know this show was coming.
I didn't either.
I had no idea this show was coming. By the way, it's got Gabriel Luna in it too. But the first teaser trailer where it's a little bit like True Lies in the sense that a father and daughter, Schwarzenegger playing the father, have their worlds turned upside down when they both realize that each of them are secretly agents for the CIA. So it's unlike True Lies where it's just Schwarzenegger who is secretly an agent for the CIA. It's also his daughter, and neither of them knew. And I guess mayhem is going to ensue and all that kind of stuff. A couple things that came to of note here. Schwarzenegger looks younger today than he looked 5 years ago. And I don't know why that is. Maybe they shot this 5 years ago. Maybe that has something to do with it. I'm just not 100% sure. But Arnold looks great. He looks
great.
terrific. He's moving well. I was watching even though it's a short teaser, I'm like, hell, I still buy him as an action hero. How old is he? 78?
70 something.
94? Taylor, look that up. But
He's
Schwarzenegger,
like 102.
he's a genetic freak. Like that dude's a genetic freak because he still looks good. He's moving well. I completely buy him as an action star still. And I'll tell you what, I knew nothing about this show. It's a short little teaser. Kind of cheesy that they had the I'm back line in it. You know what? Sign me up. I'm looking forward to it. How old is Arnie now?
He's 75 years old.
75. I will never look that good at 75. No chance. Anyway, Chris, you had a chance to see this little teaser from Fubar. What did you make of this?
Oh, I think it looks really, really fun. I'm just double checking something too. How is he only 5 years younger than Harrison Ford? Like, how? Those two men, that's the age difference between me and my little brother? What? I don't understand that. Exercise is wild, y'all. Oh my gosh. I'm excited about this. I really love Fortune Feimster, who's featured in this particular little teaser, the person who punches them at the end. Wonderful, wonderful comedian. So nice. So talented. This has a great cast. And if it's anything like True Lies, I think it's going to be super, super fun. And I don't mind him doing the I'm back line. I love when Arnold is cheesy. If he's being cheesy, he's doing action things, he's hanging out with his donkey and talking to me about that too. I loved that during the pandemic. I'll watch him do anything. So I'm really excited.
You know what this kind of highlights to me, Rob? The strength of Look, Arnold has never been, nor will he ever be, an Oscar caliber actor. Right?
No.
But he was Dwayne Johnson before Dwayne Johnson. He was that dude is so filled with charisma. He's like, Arnold has just always, even when he could barely speak English. Oh, go back and watch the old documentary Pumping Iron. That dude is so charming and has so much charisma. And that just, he uses that to carry him, and he does it so very well. So to see him like playing into that, because his action comedy stuff is great. I even love the fact that, I don't know if back in the day he would have allowed a spot where just some like Lugo guy would just give him a nut shot and like have him keel over. It's like, I love that Arnold's doing this. I don't know. You saw this little teaser. What do you think?
You know, I've always been a fan. Ever since I saw Conan the Barbarian, it was my birthday movie in 1982. My parents took me and my friends to see it. And when he says, you know, crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of the women, I'm like, I love this guy, and I'll always love this guy. And I got to tell you, even a movie, you know, there's an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie that I love that people are always surprised when I say this, Kindergarten Cop.
Oh man, I love Kindergarten.
I love Kindergarten
I love
Cop.
that movie.
And it's got Richard Tyson from Two Moon Junction as the villain. I love that movie, and he makes that movie work. I mean, he's so great in the Terminator films. I loved him in Commando. You know, he's done so many great Red Heat, Total Recall, but then he can do what, Jingle All the Way? That wasn't a great movie? Is that his Christmas
Jingle
movie?
All the Way is the Christmas movie with Sinbad.
Not a great movie.
It's fine. It's wonderful.
Twins.
Don't say anything bad about it. I love it.
Okay.
You know, I love the first movie he did after his run as being governor, the one he did with Johnny Knoxville, where he's the sheriff in the town.
Yeah, that was directed by the Korean director.
Yeah, and it was about the guy who stole the really super fast car. I cannot remember the name of it, but nobody saw that movie. That movie tanked, but that movie was really fun.
I
really
like
liked
that movie too. It's great.
All right, guys, question is for you. Have you had a chance to see the teaser for Fubar, Arnold Schwarzenegger making his television series debut? I think it's got a lot of that, you know, True Lies kind of charm feel to it. Again, it's just a short teaser. We'll see. I like what I saw. Did you? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's jump over into this, shall we? You know, the final major industry awards happened the other day. As we head into Oscar season, we had the DGAs, the PGAs, the Critic Choice, the BAFTAs, all that kind of stuff. The last big major one before the Oscars is SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, where they honor the best in acting of the year and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, one of the movies that has been building up a lot of momentum lately has been Everything Everywhere All at Once. It won, I believe, the DGAs, and then it won the PGAs, did well at several of the other things as well. And now they must be considered frontrunner. We'll talk about odds a little bit later, but they practically swept up at the SAG Awards. So first of all, dealing with this, outstanding performance by a cast in a motion picture. This is basically the SAG's Best Picture of the Year. This is their version of Best Picture, right? So the nominees were Babylon, Banshees of Inisherin, The Fabelmans, and Women Talking, but the winner was Everything Everywhere All at Once. Took for Best Ensemble Cast, Best Cast for Motion Picture, so win that. As we got into the Best Male Lead Actor, this muddies the waters a bit because Brendan Fraser wins at the SAG Awards. Again, this, I think going into it, the momentum has been behind Colin Farrell. We'll talk about the odds going in, but Brendan Fraser wins Best Lead Actor at the SAG Awards for actors by actors. Then we go into more domination from Everything Everywhere in a surprise.
Yeah.
Outstanding performance by female actor Cate Blanchett, who is the favorite going into the Oscars. Cate Blanchett, Viola Davis, Ana de Armas, Daniel Deadwyler, but Michelle Yeoh takes home Best Actress, following up on her Golden Globe win as well. So that's going to shake things up. Again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But their domination did not stop. Unsurprisingly, outstanding performance by a male actor in supporting role, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Ke Huy Quan, wins again, beating out Paul Dano, Brendan Gleeson, Barry Keoghan, and Eddie Redmayne. Then we get down to outstanding performance by a female actress. And guess what? Everything Everywhere wins again. Jamie Lee Curtis takes home the award for Best Supporting Actress, beating out Angela Bassett, Hong Chow, Carrie Condon, Stephanie Su. So she wins there again. Best Outstanding Performance by a Stunt Ensemble, Top Gun, that was obvious. What are we getting here? Then we get White Lotus won for Best Ensemble for Television Drama. And then we got into the television stuff. But the story here is SAG and Everything Everywhere All at Once absolutely sweeps up at the SAG Awards. I got to tell you, I am actually quite surprised by a couple of the results here. I have no problems with any of the results, just some surprise. Chris, is somebody who's actually served on the nomination committee at the SAG Awards, stuff like that. I'm sure you followed the results quite closely last night. What stood out to you, and what's behind this huge momentum shift now for Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Oh man, I think it just as actors, everyone appreciated how that ensemble came together. They worked so well, and that movie has such a distinct voice and plays with so many different genres and everything too, that, I mean, when you watch it from that kind of perspective, that's the kind of sandbox you want to be in, of, oh my gosh, look at all of them being all these different types of people, all these different types of characters within that realm. The only big surprise for me personally, and I knew it was coming, but I just didn't think it was particularly the right call, in my opinion, was for best comedy ensemble, or best drama ensemble, excuse me. I really thought it was going to go to Severance. White Lotus, I understand everyone on that cast is incredible and they all work really well, but when you're thinking of how an ensemble comes together and gels and how they have to really create a specific kind of world, I think Severance just did that in a much tighter way. That's just me. I had a blast watching this, though. I watched this with my actor study group. We all were over Zoom doing our little ballot comparisons and everything. We all were very confused as to why the heck Mark Wahlberg showed up at the end to do the biggest award of the evening for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Loved that he called it Women Are Talking. Not just women talk. Women are talking. You know, they're just doing that. That's what they do.
Keep an eye on them.
You got it.
They're talking.
You gotta always
Say hello to your mother for me.
Always gabbing those ladies. But it was a really great awards show. I do think this also highlights once again that you don't need to have a host, really, and that we can really tighten up all the intro bits to awards. Because sometimes the banter doesn't work, and I like that we kept it short, sweet, and concise with this awards show.
Here's Mr. and Mrs. Fantastic.
Oh, yeah, they're at the Screen Actors Guild.
Just promoting Fantastic Four. It's happening.
Early
just
promotion for
casually.
Yeah, there you
Fantastic
go.
Four.
Like, we haven't confirmed anything, but hi.
All right, Rob. Listen, this has been a very interesting awards season because we have seen the pendulum swinging. You know, like at one point, Fableman's kind of looked unstoppable. Banshees of Inisherin looked kind of unstoppable at one point. The momentum seems to be shifting towards Everything all at Once. What did you think about the results, and what stands out to you?
Well, you know, it's just been so joyous to watch everybody involved, like Jamie Lee Curtis getting those nods and seeing how excited she is, because, you know, I think she was an actress. Like, I've loved her since Halloween back in '78. You know, I loved her, and I went and saw Perfect because of her, the aerobics movie with John Travolta. Yeesh. So it's so great to see. I think she's beloved by the industry. You know, she's done great performances in things like A Fish Called Wanda.
Oh, I love that movie.
So good. She's never got the due I think she deserves as an actress, and she's been awarded with the SAG award by her peers, you know, so it means something. And same with Michelle Yeoh. I mean, I've been recently purchasing movies that she did 35 years ago, you know, action films from Hong Kong. She's been doing this for the better part of almost 50 years, and she was a Bond girl in '97.
Look at the muscles on her still.
Oh yeah, no, she's and she's an amazing actress, and she's been in this business for longer than many people might even realize. And just look at the joy on her face, you know. And I think that Everything Everywhere All at Once again was a surprising movie. It was a unique film. We'd never seen anything quite like it before, and I think people love it for that reason. I mean, not to be too highfalutin about it, but it proves and it shows people what the possibilities of cinema still are. And to see that it's beloved by as many people. I mean, come on. You brought Short Round back out of obscurity and he turns into a performance people love.
Yeah.
That is the magic of the movies right there. And that guy smiling, it's heartwarming to everybody. So I think it's great that a movie like this that had an indie spirit, was well promoted by A24, is getting these accolades. I think it's great.
I'd like to add real quick, too, if you didn't watch the ceremony, it's all on YouTube. And the Lifetime Achievement Award speech from Sally Field is incredible. It's so good, especially for anyone who is interested in being a performer. It's really, really great. Everyone's speeches are. But hers and then James Hong at the end, too, are so wonderful and so moving.
How great. Like, James Hong is like in his 90s.
Still rocking it.
Still rocking it.
He's been a
by the way,
member for
on that
70
note,
years.
Tom Cruise gave a great speech at the PGA Awards, which I thought was wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Question is for you. Everything Everywhere All at Once is kind of looking a little unstoppable right now. And by the way, if you guys have still not seen this movie, I don't know what kind of life decisions you're making. You need to watch this movie. It's a fabulous movie. What do you guys think about it? Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move into our Mint Mobile Hotline question of the day, brought to you, of course, by our friends over at Mint Mobile. If you guys have a question for the show and you'd like to hear your voice on it, go ahead and dial us anytime at 951-268-4259. And today we got a question about, hey, you think the dip in the MCU might have anything to do with James Gunn not being there anymore? Check it out.
Hey guys, this is Dave from New York City. I was just thinking about James Gunn. At one time, he was going to be Kevin Feige's right hand with the more cosmic stuff in Marvel. I'm guessing that would have been revealed in Phase 4. Could the lack of quality of Phase 4 be due to the loss of James Gunn in that organization? What do you think? Thanks.
All right, Dave, thanks a lot for calling that in. And yeah, look, it's really weird when you follow, I'm going to have to do a video on this one of these days, but when you actually follow the chain of events, it is so weird of the weird and odd path that we took to get to where we are today, where Kevin Feige's running the MCU, James Gunn is now running the DCU, two very close friends, have a lot of love for each other. I don't know if you saw the quote that Kevin Feige was asked again about it the other day. Kevin Feige put out this great quote about, hey, listen, DC is in awesome hands with James. They couldn't have picked a better guy, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. But how they got there is really where James Gunn was the wonder kid, if you will, over at Marvel. He came out of the smaller, wonderful, weird movies. Kevin Feige saw the talent and brought him into Guardians, simply turned Guardians into a smash global success, all that kind of stuff. So good that Kevin Feige was then prepping James Gunn to become kind of his right-hand guy, to kind of become, as Kevin Feige started to realize, this is a little bit too much for me to manage on my own with direct hand oversight. James is great at this, and he was going to get James Gunn kind of oversee and shepherd the cosmic side of that. Then, of course, decade-old tweets from 10 years earlier came up, caused a bit of a shitstorm, caused the single greatest movie executive in film history, Alan Horn, to make one of his few mistakes. And I love Alan Horn. He's the man. But everybody's got a few blemishes, and I think this was one of Alan Horn's big mistakes when they very quickly pulled the trigger and fired James Gunn. I thought that was a mistake. Now, that led to one of the biggest lineups, reverse interview processes you've ever seen. Because, when you're interviewing for a job, you go from job to job. The jobs don't line up for you. Every studio started lining up at James Gunn's door and giving him offers, saying, what do you want to do? And Warner Brothers went to him and said, whatever you want to do. What do you want to do, Superman? Whatever you want to do, James, you can do. And he ultimately decided to go with Warner Brothers, of course, made Suicide Squad. And now we are where we are. It's incredible. Is the decline of the MCU, which I contend through Phase 4 was, I believe, in my estimation, the weakest of the phases so far, because Marvel has just been a juggernaut. They've just been cranking out excellence ever since they started until recently. I will say this. Adding talent is always good. Losing talent is always bad. And so losing James Gunn out of the MCU fold did not do the MCU any favors. However, to suggest that James Gunn's departure is the reason for a decline in quality at the MCU recently, as I put it, the loss of the magic at the MCU recently, that would then propose that the MCU wasn't any good until James Gunn got there. Guess what? They were having some pretty good success before James Gunn got there. And they continued to have some great success after James Gunn left. So while I think losing James Gunn was definitely a creative hit to the MCU, definitely was. But lots of little hits and misses happen along the way, and I don't think that is by any means a significant marker of the decline of the MCU since he's gone. James Gunn is great. He's going to do awesome at DC. I have all the confidence in the world in him there. But do I think him leaving Marvel is the reason for a decline? No, I really don't. Anyway, Rob, what do you think about that?
I don't think so either. Like you pointed out astutely, that it was already successful before he got there, and they had success after. And remember, has he really, like, yes, he was literally gone from Marvel. He was dismissed, then he came back. But we still have, Guardians, he's been working on it for the last 2 years. He's been a part of what's been going on at Marvel. They can consult with him whenever they want to. And I just think that, after 23 movies, which was the Infinity Saga, you don't have the freshness that you had in the beginning. I mean, there's going to be something's got to give. I mean, nobody wants the exact same thing all the time. So I don't think James Gunn has anything to do with it. What's really going to be interesting is to see how Guardians 3 plays. How's that movie going to be? I mean, it looks great to me, but what's interesting about those trailers is it doesn't really tell you anything about that story. And I'm curious. I mean, I really want to see Guardians 3. I love both Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and I think Marvel's now looking at Guardians 3 to like restore a little bit of its luster.
So, to bring back the magic.
Yeah.
And
we'll see if it can, because I mean, they push back Marvel's Wednesday, and we've got Secret Invasion coming, but after that, what's next?
Chris, I mean, it's a valid question to ask about how much or how little does James Gunn's departure from Marvel have to do with what some people like myself perceive to be a little bit of a dip in quality lately. What do you think?
Well, I don't think it severely hurt it, but it certainly doesn't help, right? Because we do know that he's still doing something cosmic. We're getting Volume 3. He obviously has his fingerprints all over that movie. It's his. So we're going to have that with, the James Gunn kind of panache on that. As far as the rest of the cinematic universe, we haven't really seen a lot of cosmic this phase. We had Ms. Marvel, which is going to get into some of these things as she connects with Captain Marvel. But for the most part, we've been pretty grounded or within the quantum realm or things like that. So I don't know what he would be doing in the phase that we just saw that could have helped or hurt things. You know what I mean? Also, I don't think that somebody would try to lampoon their own work, and turn in a subpar thing. I think everyone tries to do their best, so I'm sure that Guardians is going to be the best version of what he wanted to do. We saw him do a great Christmas special. Honestly, that Christmas special should not have been nearly as good as it was.
So good. It's ridiculous how good that
It's so
Christmas
good. It's a
special was.
staple now. That is a holiday masterpiece. But I don't think you can put the blame on him. I think really it just comes down to, we've been doing this for over a decade. And Marvel was really great at surprising us with incredible quality stories, really humanistic stories, to go to your points, Rob, of just giving us these great character studies that feel very grounded and feel very, very timely. And they really resonate with us, because even if you don't understand being a Norse god, you probably understand troubled family dynamics. You probably understand not feeling worthy of something or a title or thing in your own life. And right now, I think Marvel's struggling with making those stories connect with us again and bringing in a new team as well. I don't think it has much to do with James Gunn.
All right, guys, question is for you. How would you answer the question, does James Gunn's departure have anything to do with the decline in Marvel's quality? Then again, I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't feel that Marvel has had any decline in quality. That's purely a subjective opinion. Whatever you guys think about that, jump down to the comments section below and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys, with that down, let's jump back into the hotline here for a second, shall we? Because I don't know if you knew this, Mandalorian comes back midnight tomorrow night for those of us in Los Angeles. And one of the big burning questions is, as brought up by our hotline question, is, are we finally going to find out who rescued Grogu? Check it out.
Hey, John, this is John from New York. I just wanted to know what your thoughts were. With The Mandalorian Season 3 coming up soon, what are the chances you think we'll get to see who saved Grogu from the Jedi Temple? Love to hear your thoughts. Thanks, and bring on the filthy.
All right, John from New York, thank you for calling. Double New York questions coming in here today. Thanks for calling that in. Okay, so Mandalorian comes back tomorrow night, midnight. I am stoked. I'm excited about it. Cannot wait. One of the big, I would dare say, the big question still hanging over Mandalorian narratively is, who got Grogu out of the Jedi Temple? We had that flashback episode when he came across Ahsoka, where they found out that he was in the Jedi Temple when the purge happened. He was there when Anakin showed up to start killing everybody. And they have not answered that question yet. Kind of thought, a lot of us did, that when they got to the finale of season 2, that the reveal might happen there. That they might have revealed what in the finale of season 2, who rescued him and all that kind of stuff. They did not. I'm going to say, on the one hand, the trailers don't look like Grogu is really a central part of this story. I mean, obviously Grogu's going to have a very prominent presence in it, but everything in the promos so far have been, this is about Mandalore. This whole thing is about retaking Mandalore, Din getting his Mandalorian status back in the eyes of the armorer and all this kind of stuff. That really looks like the central crux. But even with that being said, I do believe they're going to reveal this, because you can't drag that out too long. Although Jon Favreau did say he's already got season 4 written, so maybe he's thinking further down the line. That is a possibility. But I do think they're going to answer that question this year and this season. And who it could be, I don't know. But I know one person that it better not be, and they might. It better not be Anakin. It better not be Anakin. Because I've seen a lot of theories online, and I get why the theory is there. That maybe Anakin, there was still a little shred of his humanity still there, saw baby Grogu, felt bad, decide to take it to one of the clone troopers, like, take this one out and put it on some shuttle. I mean, I don't know, right? But they better not, and here's why. Because that would be retconning a basic tenet of all of Star Wars lore since the very first episode. That once Anakin turned on the Jedi, his humanity was gone, and the whole precipice of everything has been the only thing that could bring him back, even in a small way, was his own son. That's been the conceit of the whole lore of Star Wars ever since the beginning. That's it. Luke, and only Luke, could make Vader rediscover little vestiges of humanity in and of himself to bring him back. If they retcon that to give some stupid little idiotic novelty fan service moment of, oh, Anakin, if they do that, it will be one of the worst things that I think Star Wars has done in a long time. It won't ruin the show. Don't get me wrong. No hyperbole. It's not going to ruin the show. Now Mandalorian sucks if they do it. No, nothing like that. But I think as a momentary mistake, it would be a monumental retcon mistake for them to do that. The whole notion and principle that once he gave his soul over to Palpatine, he was gone until Luke made him rediscover it again. And if you go back and change that for what? For a momentary pop in a Disney Plus series, I'm going to be extremely again, it will not ruin my enjoyment of Mandalorian. It won't make me suddenly think Jon Favreau doesn't know what he's doing. Not at all. But I will be very disappointed. And I will think that would be a huge mistake on their part. Anyway, Rob, the base question here is, will they reveal this year who rescues Grogu out of the temple? And if you had to take a shot in the dark at who it might be, who do you think it could be?
Yes, they're going to reveal it, and I think it's Force Ghost Qui-Gon Jinn.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Because he had to oversee, he was the person that brought Anakin into the fold. He was dispensed with, but his presence is there. We've seen him existing, and Anakin was going to slaughter. He was slaughtering younglings. You think he's going to stop when he sees baby Grogu? No, I think that it wasn't Anakin. I think we're going to see that it was Force Ghost Qui-Gon rescuing, because Grogu was in touch with the living Force. I just think it would be cool, And like you said, if it's Anakin, it's a betrayal of the entire Star Wars mythos. And I just think that it's a good use of Qui-Gon. It makes sense because Grogu's supposedly 50 years old. So how old was he during the time of the Purge? Did Qui-Gon already know him? I just think it would be kind of interesting if it was the living Force saving its own.
I mean, the other thing about the Anakin thing is, little child, kill, little child, kill, little child. Oh, I feel the soft spot for this little child. Yeah.
You look like Yoda. You're fine.
You're fine.
Cute. You're cute.
Chris,
go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, Chris, what do you think they're going to do here do you think they will finally reveal this season who got Grogu out? Or since Jon Favreau said he's already written season 4, do you think they might be saving that one till later? What do you think?
I feel like we'll learn about who saved him, and maybe we'll then in season 4 play with that idea of maybe we need to go talk to some more Jedi or figure out some more things, because maybe Grogu still is going to go on that quest. He's back with his adoptive dad, but maybe he hasn't totally given up on the Force, because that lovely binary option that Luke gave him is one of the problems with the Jedi, right? You can either do this or this. There's no in between whatsoever. So I think that maybe Grogu's going to be one of those little guys who can dabble with the Force and maybe find a nice happy medium. That's what I'm hoping, at least, so he doesn't die a horribly tragic death, and that's why we never hear about him ever again. As far as who it could be, there's a couple different options. There were the librarians of the temple, the Jedi Temple,
Yeah,
who
that
I
would be
think
great.
would be
I like
really
that
cool, right? Newer Gar, I think. And that would make sense because they also were working with Force-sensitive children. And I think that would be a really nice tie-in to Attack of the Clones and everything like that. You also have other Jedi that you could look to as well who had off-screen deaths, because just like Dave Filoni really likes a lot of them. You know, you could have like Plo Koon do it, or even Mace Windu. I don't trust an off-screen death, as you guys know, so you could definitely have a moment, even though we saw things happen to them in Revenge of the Sith, maybe there's a little moment where one of them kind of chucks that little baby and yeets him away from Order 66. So anything's possible, really, but I do think we can look at a lot of the designs that Favreau and Filoni really enjoy and a lot of the characters they like, and maybe see if those guys are going to have a little second breath of life.
And are we overlooking an obvious option? Yoda?
Yeah.
Could Yoda
Absolutely
have
could
saved
be
baby
Yoda.
Yoda? I mean, that could
Totally.
be one. All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think? Do you think going into Mandalorian Season 3, which starts at midnight, Los Angeles time, tomorrow night, do you think we are going to find out this season who got Grogu out of the Jedi Temple? Or is that something they're going to try to milk a little bit more and drag into Season 4? Maybe yes, maybe no. If so, do you have a theory about who it could be at this point? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, we're going to take a quick break here for a second and thank one of the sponsors of our episode of the John Campea Show today, our friends over at Rocket Money. Guys, we want to thank a sponsor of this video, Rocket Money. The average person has around 12 paid subscriptions. Think about that. If you think you're only subscribed to a handful of services, you might want to double check. With Rocket Money, you can quickly identify and cancel all of your unwanted subscriptions. Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill, is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Rocket Money will quickly and easily identify your subscriptions for you so you can stop paying for the ones you don't want and don't even use. Simply find the subscription you don't want and press cancel, and Rocket Money will cancel it for you. No more long hold times with customer service or tedious emailing back and forth. Rocket Money makes canceling subscriptions as easy as the click of a button. My wife Ann and I moved out of Burbank 2 years ago, and one of the first things I discovered when I loaded up Rocket Money was that I was still paying for a gym membership I haven't even been to in Burbank in 2 years. So stop throwing away your money. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/Campea. That's rocketmoney.com/Campea. rocketmoney.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Rocket Money for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show. Remember, guys, when you check out and support our sponsors, you're actually supporting us. So if you go down to the description of the video, right near the top, you'll find links and promo codes to today's sponsors. And thank you again to Rocket Money. All right, guys, with that down, let's get into this, shall we? I contend, while still not a whole ton of people have seen it, and I was very late to the party on it, I think easily the best sitcom of the recent era, and hell, I'll go so far as to say maybe the best sitcom ever, is the Canadian-produced Eugene and Daniel Levy show, Schitt's Creek, which was a little show that I missed out on because it was airing on CBC in Canada while I was down here. I caught on to it when it got into the third season, and Ann and I tore through this show. And then, in its final season, it did the unthinkable at the Emmys, where it literally swept, the first show ever to literally sweep every single category. It won Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress, Best Comedy Series, Best Direction, Best Writing. It swept every single award, and deservedly so. The Crows Have Eyes is a movie to this day I need to see. Only people who have seen Schitt's Creek will know what I'm talking about. And I'm not going to lie to you, man. My heart has had a Schitt's Creek shaped hole in it ever since this show went off the air. It is one of the most hilariously funny, but endearingly touching, beautiful shows. You know, every once in a while, a movie comes out. I remember the Lupita Nyong'o film, The Queen of Katwe, came out. And Schitt's Creek reminds me a little bit of that. A show that had no villain, just like that movie had no villain. It was just a show about good people doing good things. And some flawed people, which, the Roses were. The Roses were flawed people, yes. But just a show about good people doing good things. And it just, oh my God, I love this show. I loved it so much. Anyway, a lot of people have been asking and begging, me included, begging for this show to come back. And now, as Eugene Levy gets ready to launch his own Apple Plus show about food around the world sort of thing, Eugene Levy, iconic Canadian performer, gave the first little glimmers of hope that maybe we could see a return of Schitt's Creek. He said this comes from IndieWire, and Eugene Levy says this: I know my son Daniel, who was the writer and, Eugene did some writing on it, who was a writer and director of the show and a producer of the show. I know my son Daniel has said this: we'd love to get together with these people again and take the show and the characters to yet another level, Levy said. There's nothing in the works right now, to be honest with you, but we've never stopped thinking about what might happen down the line. We're certainly open to anything. I think when the idea that is the right idea presents itself, we'll probably act on it, I guess, says Eugene Levy. All right. I'll tell you why this needs to happen. Besides the fact that in a dark world, bright shining lights of shows like Schitt's Creek need to exist, and besides the fact that this show ended by setting all types of Emmy records, and the show ended narratively in a place that we were all wanting to see what happened next. Like, what happens next when they leave Schitt's Creek, and what happens after that? On top of all that, while Daniel Levy is an insane, unique talent, he hasn't blown up the way I think a lot of people thought he deserves to blow up, right? Now, granted, he's still got a lot of irons in the fire and all that kind of stuff, but it could be very tempting for Daniel, obviously for Eugene and the other cast as well, to come back and, get in the limelight again. Because, and listen, returning shows has been all the rage, both in movies, Top Gun, and on television. Frasier's coming back. I mean, it's been all the rage, and no show deserves, and nay, I would say no show is needed as much as a show like Schitt's Creek possibly returning. I love this comment from Eugene Levy. I believe it is. That's a father and son right there. I mean, look at those two. I do believe this thing is going to happen. By the way,
Taylor, we found your dad.
Eugene's daughter was one of the stars of the show as well. Daniel's sister. She played the girl who worked at the not the cafeteria, the restaurant.
Yeah.
The main one at the restaurant. She was great in it too. Anyway, Chris, you hear about this. I know you appreciated this show as well. When you hear it, like, look, it's somebody like me who is a big fan of this, reading too much into what Eugene's saying, or does it legitimately sound like, yeah, this sounds like something they're going to do?
I do think it sounds like that great PR little sound clip of, if the timing's right and the scripts are great, of course we do it. We are a literal family. Why wouldn't we? And I feel like this, again, was another show that really knew how to have a solid ending. When you watch this show, they told the story that needed to be told. It ends on such a high note. It's so beautifully done. It's such a well-executed series that I wonder if going back to this would really just kind of dilute the property and take away some of its splendor, right? It's like that final seasons of Scrubs where we all went, why is this happening? What is this? I understand it's a backdoor pilot, but I don't want it. Get out of here. Just end where you end. So I feel like with especially Daniel Levy, he's doing a lot of other projects. They might not be as huge as Schitt's Creek, right? He's doing a lot of hosting again. He's producing things. He's got an eyewear line. He's doing a lot of other stuff. He's directing too. That's correct. And Eugene Levy has his new Apple series. That's the very kind of like idiot abroad concept of him looking at all these different hotels and exploring the world as somebody who's a bit curmudgeon-y. So I don't see this happening anytime soon.
Rob, what do you think? You read Eugene Levy's comments here. Do you think this is something that could actually happen?
Well, this is an actual sitcom that I've watched.
Yeah,
I watch it with Elizabeth, and
you haven't watched a lot of sitcoms.
No, and I really it was one of these things where she was watching it, I sat down, and you can't not get sucked into the show because it is genuine, it's warm, and it's funny, and the characters are great, and I love the whole situation. And Dan Levy is an incredible performer. And I love you. I've always loved Eugene Levy, and I could absolutely see. I could see this show coming back, and they'll reinvent it because I don't think it'll be called Schitt's Creek.
Right.
I think it'll be called something else, and they're going to go do something new and unique. But I don't think they're going to do it. It strikes me as they're going to have the first season like all written out. They're not going to hire a writer's room. They're going to already know, like they're already going to know what they're going to do. And when we get it, it'll either be like, I think, a limited series or something. And
I agree. I think it would be probably a limited series.
a limited series, like a 10 episode, something that they're going to, and they'll see where it goes from there. And in a way, they could turn this is a great property to do that with.
By the way, I nearly cried at this scene.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic.
This show
and
made me cry
I could
so
see
much.
that happening. So,
By the way, no, this won't mean anything to anybody who hasn't seen the show, but I believe it was in the final episode. It was either in the final episode or the second final episode. I always talk about in movies, the single hardest I've ever laughed in anything is in Spaceballs when Dark Helmet says, now you see the evil will always triumph because good is dumb. I've never laughed harder in a movie theater. I don't think I've ever laughed harder in a television series than Daniel Levy's fiance got him a massage for the day of the wedding, not realizing that he got his fiance a happy ending massage. And Daniel's like, no, it didn't happen. And then he looks at the girl who's his best friend, and she's like, and she was just like, I mean, it was like there was no dialogue, no line. I almost died laughing so hard. Like I seriously thought I farted, had a drip of urine come out, and almost choked. I was laughing so hard all at the same time.
Nolan, make John laugh.
Yeah,
Well, it's so worth it for that little like comeback then of in the vows of you're my happy ending.
Oh my God.
So
yeah.
good.
This
It's
is
so well
just
done.
The writing of this show
He's
was
so talented.
so next level. And I'll tell you what, every Halloween since, somebody has done a Moira in the Crowaning costumes. You always see at Halloween somebody dressed up as Moira in the Crowaning, and it always makes my heart smile when I do. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Eugene Levy is talking about, hey, we'll do this. Like, we will do this. And talking about if the right script comes along, they're the ones who write the script. So I think this is going to happen. I hope I do, but maybe Chris is right. Maybe I'm being a little bit too optimistic. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Today is Monday, which means it is the day after a new episode of The Last of Us came out. This show has been, quite frankly, it has replaced Yellowstone, which is so dear to my heart, but it has replaced Yellowstone for me as the current best show on TV. I believe, like, that take nothing away from Yellowstone or Succession, but I just think The Last of Us has just done such a superior job of television making. HBO yet does it again. Now, last night was a very different kind of episode, which we knew from last week because, they did the whole next time on The Last of Us. And of course, it was the DLC content episode, right?
And it was written exclusively by Neil Druckmann, which he hadn't done. He either collaborated or Craig Mazin wrote all the episodes, but this was written only by him.
Yeah, the big title at the beginning of it, written for television by Druckmann, right? Now, we are going to, a little bit later today at 3 p.m. Los Angeles time, that's 6 p.m. New York time, we're going to be having our Last of Us open spoiler discussion a little bit later. So make sure you come on back. We'll talk in full open spoilery details. So we're going to try to be speaking generalities here without going into too much spoilers of this. All right. I would probably say that this was my second least favorite episode of the season. Understanding, of course, that still makes it for me, even though I don't give numerical scores, like an 8.5 out of 10 for me, maybe even a 9 out of 10 for me. Like, it was, because I'll tell you what they did with the flashback here, everything about The Last of Us, the series, has been about characters. It's all been about characters and world building and character building. And that is what has made the narrative so rich. And they made a decision to do this DLC content, this kind of flashback episode, if you will, with only one purpose in mind. Help us have a better understanding of Ellie. Her mindset, her motivations, what is making her do what we have seen her do, and what we're going to see her do moving forward. And Because when we meet this little girl chained into a room that the Fireflies had, we know she's snarky, she's quick-witted, she's smart, but I believe coming out of this episode, which by the way, you know, they said in the after show about it, it's like we had to find an actress to play. What was the character that Storm Reed played?
Riley.
Riley, right. They said to find someone to play Riley, for the emotional weight of this to work, you got to find somebody who can go toe-to-toe with Bella Ramsey. And that is not a small task. So who they find? Reed. And boy, she delivered.
She was great.
She delivered. The moment she shows up in this bedroom, in this scene, I instantly believed the connection and the bond. And a little reminiscent of the Bill and Frank episode, finding moments of beauty in the world, innocence in the world, that something so cherishable and special can exist in this world. And when it does, it really stands out to you. And also that when something beautiful in the world, this world happens to you, it's instantly taken away. I mean, I just found this to be, while not my favorite episode of the season, by the time it was done, I still sat on my couch afterwards for a bit, just contemplating the episode and going back more into the character building of Ellie. And you know what? It made me go back to the previous episode as well, when she's really freaking pissed. Like, there is no understanding about, hey, I think my brother Tommy could be a better fit for taking. Now we get it a little bit more. Again, we're not going to go into details. We'll do that a little bit later. Anyway, I loved this episode, even though it was maybe my second least favorite episode of the season. I still absolutely loved it. Anyway, Chris, you had a chance to watch the new episode of Last of Us. What did you make of it?
Oh man, it gives that argument she had with Joel so much more weight. Just like in the game, right? When you do the DLC, you're like, oh, it all makes sense now. I understand. This isn't just some kid with a chip on their shoulder. They've really gone through some shit. And this does that so well. I love how they juxtapose the present and the past in this episode too. I think they did that really masterfully. This is a really big music episode. I don't know if you've gotten to watch it yet, Jonathan.
No, I'm behind. I'm left behind. So
well done.
I gotta catch up.
This is a really music-heavy episode, so I'm really interested to hear your thoughts in it. That again tie directly into the games, and I think they're going to have a really lovely emotional payoff moving forward in the series as well. There's just a lot to unpack in this one, and I'm really excited to talk about it later.
You know, one of the things I really loved about this episode, again, speaking in generalities, there's a scene where we saw a little glimpse of it before, where she's talking to like her, in the flash of her Fedra commander.
Yeah, I love that scene.
There's Claudia, I think her name is Claudia Gray, did a Star Wars novel called Lost Stars. I think that was the name of the Star Wars novel. And I loved it because it told the story of these two people, one who went beloved friends in childhood. One went the rebellion way, one went the imperial way. And that novel did a great job of painting a picture for us, like why some good people would end up in the Empire. Why some good, well-meaning people end up in the Empire. And there's a scene in this show, again, we won't go into the details of their conversation, where we meet a Fedra commander who's just kind of like, listen, we do this because if we weren't here, these people would starve or kill each other. Like, and they kind of humanize Fedra. And his conversation and his words don't ring hollow because we just left Kansas, where suddenly Fedra wasn't there. And guess what? Things got worse. And so they do this thing to challenge the idea of pure black and pure white in an increasingly gray world. I love that. Anyway, Rob, you had a chance to see the episode. What did you make of it?
I really enjoyed it. I mean, I knew it was going to be a different offbeat episode, and I thought it was interesting that they used the DLC content for the basis of this. But I thought it was really smart because, you know, learning about Ellie's backstory, I think, has been important. She's alluded to, no, I've done this before. This isn't the first time I've killed something or whatever. But that choice that you were just talking about, it really put in the civilization that she exists in stark relief. I mean, there is no world, you know, and so whatever meager scraps of civilization that are left behind, if you can choose to be part of the higher ups, you know, the haves as opposed to the have-nots, that's basically what she's being offered, and it is nothing. And one of the things that I love about her character is throughout the series, we've seen her discovering these things that she's never experienced, like an airplane, you know, and talking about these things and seeing this. There was a certain joie de vivre, like going into a mall and all of that it really, again, it shows, this show is really about what is the end of civilization. It makes me, at least, realize all the things that we have that we take for granted. Buying gas at a gas station that works.
Escalators.
And what?
Oh,
Escalators.
Escalators. There you go. I mean, like, look at this. How great's that? And I was wondering if this is the West Side Pavilion. You know, I don't know where they shot this. Maybe they shot it in Canada, but it just, it made me, because it looks like the West Side Pavilion.
There was an this had nothing to do with the story. There was an A&W in there. It was supposed to be, I think they shot it in Canada.
Oh, they probably did. But I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Again, the civilization, everything that we've lost, and we're never going to get it back. It's never coming back. And she got a little bit of a taste of that life, and it was great to see. But it also made me, you know, mournful at the end. Like, ugh, why even continue on in this world?
Guys, I what can I say? Not even my favorite episode of the season, but I love this. Again, they keep doubling down. They keep investing into building character, and it's all having such a delightful play. It pisses me off that we only have 2 episodes left.
I know.
I'm so pissed off we only have 2 episodes left. Anyway, guys, question is for you. Did you have a chance to watch The Last of Us episode 7? If so, what did you guys think about it? And don't forget, come on back at 3 p.m. Los Angeles time. That's 6 p.m. New York time for our Last of Us open spoiler discussion after show. We hope to see you guys there. All right, guys. With that down, let's get into some sports book stuff here, shall we? I love this. All right. As we mentioned a little bit earlier in the show, it's now done. All the major awards shows for the awards season in the world of movie and entertainment industry are now wrapped up, with the big one still to come, the Oscars. With SAG now out of the way, we've had the Critics' Choice, we've had the BAFTAs, we had the Golden Globes, we had the DGA, the PGA, SAG. All of it is done now. And we're heading in to the final stretch of the actual Oscars. So who are the favorites and who are the underdogs going into the Oscars this year? Well, you know, whenever odds are involved, Vegas, baby. Vegas is going to be involved. And so Vegas is now, their sports bets in Vegas have set betting lines and they've set the odds. You can actually go to Vegas, I think I may, and put in a wager with the odds given right now on who are the odds-on favorites and the underdogs going into the Oscars this year. We're going to go through some of them. Now listen, a little bit of a line on sports betting here, okay? For anybody who knows nothing about sports betting, you see an odds like, Riley is fighting Dominique, and Riley is a plus 200 and Dominique is a minus 150. Okay, here's basically what that means. If you are somebody who has a minus in front of your name, that means you're the favorite. So let's say, for argument's sake, something is minus 200. Let's say I'm going to go watch the Laker game tonight, and the Lakers are minus 200. That means the Lakers are favored to win, and it means that you need to bet $100. You need to bet $200. If there's a minus sign there, you need to bet $200 to win $100. If the Lakers were minus 300 tonight, that means you got to bet $300 in order to win $100. If the Lakers were minus 350, that means you got to bet $350 just for the hope of winning 100. That means they are the favorite. If there was a big plus in front of their sign, that means they're an underdog. So if the Lakers would say plus 300 tonight, that means they're the underdog, but it means if you bet $100, you could win 3. If they were plus 400, if you bet 100, you could win 400. Do you see how it means? Minus means you're the favorite, plus means you're an underdog. All right. Well, let's look at the odds that Vegas is laying on the Oscars right now, shall we? We're going to start with the best picture odds. Everything, and now after the SAGs, everything, everywhere, all at once, according to Vegas, are the favorites to win. I'm going to see if I can make this just a bit bigger for you here. Give me 1 second. There we go. Everything, everywhere, all at once are now the favorites to win. They are a minus 300. That means if you go to Vegas and you want to win $100, you got to put up $300 to maybe win 100. Okay, so everything, everywhere, all at once is now the favorite. The second favorite, but still a big underdog now, is the Banshees of Inisherin at plus 500. All Quiet on the Western Front, according to Vegas, has a better chance of winning than Top Gun, The Fabelmans, Elvis, Avatar. They are a plus 900. Top Gun Maverick is a huge underdog at plus 100. The Fabelmans, who I thought not long ago were a favorite to win Best Picture. Vegas now has him as a plus 1,200. And I'll tell you what, I was telling Rob before the show started, I still think there's a chance Fabelmans win. So I'm tempted to go into Vegas and drop $100 on that because I could win 1,200. So why not? But anyway, Elvis then at plus 2,500, Tar at plus 3,000. Avatar, listen, that's another one I'd be tempted to go into Vegas and put down $100 on because they are plus 5,000. Put down $100, you win 5,000. Triangle of Sadness plus 8,000. The Women Are Talking is coming in at plus 10,000. So right now, the Oscar odds, the Vegas odds, the Vegas odds for Best Pictures, Everything Everyone Wants, minus 300. Okay. Now we go into Best Actor odds. And after the win at the SAGs, Brendan Fraser is now a small favorite to win Best Actor at minus 120. Austin Butler is just a slight underdog at plus 120. Colin Farrell, who won a bunch of the awards earlier, has now become a very legitimate underdog for this one at plus 500. Bill Nighy then drops way down at 3,300. Paul Mescal from After Sun is in minus 3,300. So this is a 3-horse race. And it really, according to Vegas, it looks like a 2-horse race, but Brendan Fraser is currently the favorite, according to Vegas, to win Best Actor at the awards, with Austin Butler a very, very small underdog, Colin Farrell a little bit further down, and then it's the rest of the thing. All right. Best Actress odds. This is the one to me that I've been saying for a while I believe is a slam dunk. It's Cate Blanchett. She's going to win. But after Michelle Yeoh's win at the SAGs, it's become a closer race. Cate Blanchett is still considered the betting favorite to win at minus 225. So she is still the favorite by Vegas odds. But Michelle Yeoh has closed that gap now. Now she's only a plus 125. She is a small underdog. Then it's everybody else. Andrea Riseborough from 2 Leslie is a plus 1,800. Michelle Williams is a plus 2,000. Anna de Armas is a plus 2,500. So that is the race that has shrunk the most in recent days, because for a long time it was Cate Blanchett by a mile. By a mile. Now it's a little closer. Cate Blanchett is still the favorite going in. Best Original Screenplay odds. Banshees of Inisherin. Rob, I think you picked this. Banshees of Inisherin is still a small favorite to win at minus 165. Everything Everywhere All at Once is just a very small underdog at plus 110. And then Fabelman's Tar and Triangle of Sadness are way, way further back. For Best Adapted Screenplay, Women Talking is actually the favorite at minus 200. All Quiet on the Western Front is only a small underdog at plus 150 to win that. Right. Then Glass Onion, Knives Out, Living, and Top Gun Maverick all way, way, way behind in the running of that. For Best Supporting Actor odds, this is one of the biggest favorites in the industry. Ki Hugh Kwan from Everything Everywhere All at Once is a minus 1,600. That means if you want to go to Vegas, you got to put up $1,600. And if you win, you just win $100. That is by far the biggest gap right there. So minus 1,600. Then everybody else is way behind. Brendan Gleeson, who I believe has a shot, but he's at minus 900, as is Barry Keoghan is at minus 900, both for Banshees of Inisherin. Brian Tyree Henry is a plus 2,500. Judd Hirsch is a plus 2,500. So right now, Ki Hugh Kwan, who has, anyway, to be honest, and to be fair, has been sweeping up the award season anyway. So Vegas has him as a minus 1,600 favorite, which is massive. All right. Best Supporting Actress odds. This is another one that is way closer than I thought it would be. Angela Bassett for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever is still the favorite at a minus 300, legitimate favorite. Carrie Condon, though, for Banshees of Inisherin is coming in there at plus 190. Jamie Lee Curtis, who just won the SAG Award for Best Supporting Actress, is a plus 1,600 underdog.
I'd take that bet.
That's another one I could be willing to put $100 down on, because hey man, just because the odds you're getting are incredible. Anyway, Stephanie Sue from Everything Everywhere All at Once also a plus 1,600, and Hong Chow from The Whale is a plus 200. So Angela Bassett, the odds are, she's not as much of a favorite as she was a little bit before, but still the definitive favorite at minus 300.
Was she a SAG nominee? Was she on for this awards?
For which one?
Angela Bassett.
Angela Bassett.
Yes,
okay.
she was.
Yeah. All right. Best Animated Feature. Now, outside of actors, this is your second biggest leading thing. Like Vegas is saying there is no doubt that Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio is going to win. It is a, hold on to your butts, plus 2,500 favorite. There's no point in going to Vegas and betting on this. There's just no point. No. It is a plus. So that means you got to, if you want to win $100, you have to go and risk $2,500. So Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio is a plus, or is a minus 2,500 favorite. Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, and Marcel the Shell with Shoes On are in second, but way behind. They're plus 1,200 underdogs. Turning Red, which is my vote. If I was an Oscar voter, this would be my vote for Best Animated Film of the Year, is Turning Red, but it is a plus 2,000. So it ain't going to happen. And The Sea Beast is a plus 2,500. All right. The biggest favorite in all of the awards is Best International Feature. All Quiet on the Western Front is a, get this, minus 4,000.
So you got to put 4,000 down to make 100.
To make $100.
Not worth it.
Not worth it. Not at all. But that Vegas is looking at that as an automatic lock. So they've given All Quiet on the Western Front a minus 4,000. Argentina 1885 for plus 700. The Quiet Girl plus 700. EO plus 1,600. Close plus 1,600. All right. Gonna skip by the documentary, and we got on to Best Director. Look at this. Daniel Kwan and Daniel Schreiner for Everything Everywhere All at Once are minus 700 favorites. 3 or 4 weeks ago, I would have said Spielberg was the favorite going into this. But they've got the Daniels from Everything Everywhere All at Once, not a small favorite, minus 700. Where Steven Spielberg is the underdog at plus 333. Todd Field from Tars a plus 1,400. Martin McDonough for plus 2,000. And Ruben Östlund for Triangle Sadness for plus 3,300. So Vegas is saying we believe it's going to be the Kwans. If anybody has a shot at beating them, it's going to be Steven Spielberg. But right now, the Kwans are a significant favorite to win Best Director. Best Visual Effects. Look at this. Avatar: The Way of Water, minus 4,000. That again, that is just Vegas saying, look, this is such an automatic lock. Don't even worry about it. Top Gun Maverick is a plus 1,200 underdog. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, a plus 1,400 underdog, as is All Quiet on the Western Front. And The Batman is a plus 2,500 underdog. Avatar: The Way of Water is going to win this walking away, which is something we've all known anyway. Best Sound, Top Gun Maverick is the favorite as a minus 25, as a minus 250. So a small favorite to win Best Sound. Best Cinematography, All Quiet on the Western Front right now is the favorite with minus 400. Elvis is the next underdog at plus 500. Empire of Light plus 900. Tar at plus 1,400. And Bardo at plus 2,500. Best Costume Design, nobody is considered a definitive favorite. You've got Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, but they're a plus 100. They're not even a minus. Elvis, very, very close, as close as it gets at a plus 110. Then Everything Everywhere All at Once, a plus 900. Babylon plus 1,400. Miss Harris Goes to Paris plus 2,500. Original score, Babylon is a slight favorite at a minus 175, whereas All Quiet on the Western Front is a plus 200.
How does a Batman not on that? Whatever.
Well, it is what it is.
Sorry for your loss.
The musicians didn't consider it worthy, I guess. Best Original Song, Natu Natu from RRR is a favorite at minus 333. Lift Me Up from Black Panther: Wakanda Forever at a plus 300. And Hold My Hand from Top Gun at a plus 550. Best Makeup and Hairstyling, The Whale, I think that's probably going to get it at a very slight favorite at minus 120. Elvis. Production Design, film editing is going to go to Everything Everywhere All at Once by a slight favorite. Anyway, there we go. But the big one here is they're guessing is Everything Everywhere All at Once is now the favorite going in. Anyway, guys, a lot of numbers, a lot of categories. Rob, you saw the odds. Are there any really big surprises for the favorites of the underdogs that stood out to you there?
No. I mean, I'm looking at that. I mean, I because, look, it always comes away with the Oscars that there are favorites. Every year there's one or two favorites that pretty much, it's seldom that we see. Sometimes though we do. Like there are upsets that you don't see coming. That's why I do think I'm still holding out hope, not because I think it's going to, but because it's a possibility maybe, but it would be cool if Top Gun did win.
Best Picture?
Yeah.
It's a plus 1,000.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's going to. Obviously, I think Banshees of Inisherin's probably going to do it. Everything Everywhere All at Once is probably going to do it. But I could see Top Gun Maverick being a one outlier that everybody just voted on that for Best Picture because everyone loved it and it brought back the industry. And I could see that being just a favorite vote. But the other ones, there's nothing in there that really surprises me. It all seems to go right down the favorite lines. I mean, maybe actors can be interchangeable with the ones at the top, but I don't see like a plus 10,000 coming up and winning. I don't think that what's the movie called now? Ladies Talking.
Women Talking.
Yeah,
The women are talking.
The women are talking. I don't see that as coming back from behind and winning. Best Picture.
It is the biggest underdog on the list at plus 10,000.
Yeah, no. It does not have a snowball's chance in hell of winning. Not to say anything about the quality of the film. I saw the film, it's quite good. But the it's not going to win.
You know what surprised me? That
It's
Top
intense.
Gun Maverick, if we bring up these numbers again, Jonathan, Top Gun Maverick is actually now listed as a favorite, at least over The Fabelmans.
Right.
Top Gun Maverick is a plus 1,000, which means it's not going to win. But The Fabelmans has gone from being a legitimate pick to maybe win just about a month ago to now is a significant underdog.
Well, I mean, All
at
Quiet on the
plus
Western.
1,200.
Yeah, you got all the BAFTAs that All Quiet on the Western Front. I mean, it swept the BAFTAs. So that went.
Yeah.
I mean, I always thought All Quiet on the Western Front is a lock for best international.
And it is
film.
at a plus 4,000 or a minus 4,000. It's the biggest favorite of the
It's a
Oscars
lock.
this year.
It's a total lock. But in terms of Best Picture, Everything Everywhere. But I could see Banshees of Inisherin win. I could see that, but I could also see Top Gun Maverick in a favorite vote.
All right, Chris, this is the way Vegas is seeing it. The biggest shock
lot
to
of
me.
numbers.
What's that?
That was a lot of numbers.
That's a lot of numbers. Now, the
there-
biggest shock to me is how close that race for Best Actress has become. Because just 72 hours ago, I mean, the lock of, other than Avatar winning Best Visual Effects, the lock of locks was Cate Blanchett to win. The world looks a little bit different now because the odds now for Best Actress is only Cate Blanchett as a favorite as a minus 225, whereas Michelle Yeoh's a very small underdog at plus 125. Were there any big surprises to you on the Vegas odds list?
Not really. I'm still pulling for Michelle Yeoh. If I was a betting woman, I would take that bet. But you need to have expendable income to do that, and I don't. But that's the only one. I'm gonna just say, last year I called Coda, and Coda was the underdog.
Yep.
I just think I'm gonna continue to be right.
No,
and if I'm not, I will eat so much crow. But
Now, what are you calling?
I
Definitively?
think Michelle Yeoh is going to take Best Actress.
Okay,
and then for
in
Best
film.
Picture, it's going to be Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah, they have
gonna
emerged
sweep.
as the definitive at minus 300. I mean, that's not a massive thing like minus 4,000, but they're the definitive favorite, especially with Banshees being a plus 500 underdog. I mean, a lot of interesting things, guys. The question is for you. We're heading now into the final stretch before the Oscars. Vegas now has their betting lines out. Is there any of this standing out to you as being a shock or surprise or comments? I don't know. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move into our final main topic here today, shall we? And that one is this. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, of course, made its debut in theaters last week as, the next installment of the MCU. I love the Ant-Man franchise.
Me too.
The first couple of films went into this one with a little bit of question about how well it'll be received by the general movie-going audience, but I myself personally quite excited about it. I did not love this movie. I did not love this movie. I wish I did, but I did not. I didn't hate it either. It definitely has some really good redeeming qualities. I thought Cassie as a character was a character I thought I was going to be really annoyed by, but I actually ended up liking the Cassie character quite a bit. There are some good grins and smiles in the movie, some great performance by Jonathan Majors, all that kind of stuff. But it opened to $104 million, which last week, a lot of people are trying to paint that as a really positive picture. And it is if you compare it to the previous Ant-Man movies. I mean, it's doing this. It was the biggest opening for an Ant-Man film so far. But it didn't look as impressive when you compared it to other big comic book movies that have come out in the last year or so. As a matter of fact, the only one it really compared favorably to was Black Adam. And Morbius, if you want to say Morbius. But we all said the real question going into it is, what is the second weekend drop-off going to be like? and it was big. Nearly 70% big. As a matter of fact, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania now holds the dubious distinction of being the single biggest second week box office drop-off in the history of the MCU, with, to be specific, a 96.7% drop. Now, that just barely beats out what was the previous record holder, which was Spider-Man No Way Home. Actually had a 90 or a 69% drop, which made Jonathan very happy for some reason earlier today. But it made him very, very happy. But of course, the big difference was that Spider-Man No Way Home had a monstrous opening weekend.
Right.
Right? Like a monstrous opening weekend, and went on to make $1.9 billion. Ant-Man and the Wasp had made 30 something, still came in number one at the box office this weekend, but again, with 32 something million dollars that it made this weekend, again, marking the biggest drop off in the history of the MCU, which to me says a couple of things. Number one, that as I said, for its first opening weekend, I don't think they did a great job with their marketing campaign. I really don't. I think just the sheer convolutedness of the multiverse, being in like the quantum realm, and the trailers looked like a kind of gobbledygoopy CGI slobberfest. And again, I think we saw in the second weekend that except for those people like me who are excited to see a new MCU installment and rush out to the theater, the marketing has not done a great job of bringing average film goers to the theater. Secondly, it speaks to the lack of real word of mouth. Whereas the audience rating may be very good, the people saying they liked it aren't telling their friends they need to go see it. I mean, if they were, we wouldn't be seeing the second biggest or the single biggest drop off in MCU history of this thing. So I think it speaks a little bit to the marketing. I think it speaks a little bit to the word of mouth is not strong on this film. And it's really unfortunate. And I'll tell you what, Marvel, an executive from Marvel said, we're not concerned. We're not concerned about that box office results. They're lying. They're absolutely concerned. And I'll tell you the main reason they're absolutely concerned is because this is the movie that's supposed to be setting up the entire next phase with Kang. And people didn't want to go back to watch it again, and they didn't tell their friends to go watch it. Now, Marvel and executives from Marvel should absolutely anonymously be telling news outlets, we're not concerned about this. Of course you're supposed to say that, and I don't blame them for saying it at all. But make no mistake, they are very worried about this. They're fools if they don't. Now look, do not misinterpret this as the sky is falling on the MCU, all is lost. No, not at all. But this is a problem. And this is a concern. The MCU has never had a response to their movies like this. Even Thor: Love and Thunder, a lot of the average movie going, we talked about this a lot of the average movie going audience had a really good time with the movie. Chris points out a lot that they did go and tell their friends to go back and watch it again. And it didn't have as bad as second weekend drop off, ended up making over $700 million, all that kind of stuff. Now, whether or not you feel it deserved that, that's another topic altogether. But they didn't do it for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And I'm going to go one step further in this. We talked a little bit earlier about how it's not comic book movie fatigue, it's mediocre fatigue. That's the problem. And you know how I'm always saying in the world of comic book movies, a rising tide raises all ships, right? Like there's a reason why Kevin Feige cheers for DC movies to be good. Because if the movie-going audience goes to a movie, has a great time at a comic book movie, they are more likely to go back to the next big comic book movie because the average movie-going audience member doesn't really care if something's DC or Marvel. What's been happening? Other than the Batman, we've had okay at best movies. We had Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness, which I like. I like Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness, but it's not as good as the MCU standard. We had Thor: Love and Thunder, which again, I enjoyed to a degree, but at best it's okay. You had Black Adam come out, underwhelmed a lot of people. People didn't want to go see it. Then now we have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which is again, I mean, at best it's okay. So, I mean, I will go so far as to say this, it's not just bad news for Marvel. James Gunn is looking at this too and is very concerned. This isn't good for DC either. This isn't good for anybody involved in the comic book movie realm. And again, this is not an issue that it's comic book movie fatigue, as the way Chris phrased it earlier, it's mediocrity fatigue. And damn, they need Guardians to be great. They need Guardians to be great, because this is a very concerning trend for them right now. And look, I'll just say it. This is a horrible second weekend for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Just horrible. If this movie had made $240 million in its opening weekend, I'd look at a 96.7% drop and say, well, everybody went to go see it opening. But they didn't all go to see it opening weekend. This is bad. Not the sky isn't falling. It's not all doom and gloom. It's not, oh, Marvel is done for it. No, but it is bad. Anyway, Rob, what was your first reaction? Because I know last week when we talked about, over or under a 58% drop, you thought it might take a less than 68% or 58% drop, something like that. I think a lot of people felt that way too. But when you see this number, what's your first reaction? What do you attribute it to?
Well, I've seen this movie twice now, and watching it, because I didn't like it the first time. And, I like to go back and see a movie a second time a lot of the time so I can just sit back and take it all in. I think there's a couple of problems with this movie. They were assuming that Kang carried more weight with an audience that doesn't know who Kang is than he does.
Right.
Because nobody knows who he is. So even in the marketing, they showed Jonathan Majors, who was great.
Oh, yeah, terrific performance.
He's great as Kang. But you look at it, if you don't know who Kang is, and he comes out, they assume that you already know that he's this great, powerful villain. And they do set him up as being villainous in this. But then the average moviegoer is kind of left with, can I spoil? I mean, let me just say that he's not the overwhelming villain that you might think he would be. That was another thing. I was kind of, as I walked out of it, also Ant-Man. This is such an atypical movie. They've taken their least grossing film franchise, which is the Ant-Man franchise. He's not a heavy hitter. He's your everyman who gets the suit. And they've put him into this fantasy context, this overblown sci-fi world with all these characters and freedom fighters and everything. But it's still Ant-Man. And I couldn't help, as I was watching it the second time, feeling this feels out of place. Like the Scott Lang character, I get it. He was locked in the quantum realm. He came out of it. He got the Avengers in Endgame and gave them a way to defeat Thanos. But this movie felt off to me. And when I was watching it, the joys that I would get from the Ant-Man franchise, because like you, I really liked the first two Ant-Man movies, they weren't really in this movie. They turned it into something else. And of all the characters, I understand they had to use the quantum realm. I get that. It just felt out of place to me. And when you go see it, you're watching a movie that's trying to be this thing that we like, big epic sci-fi, action adventure, evil villain bank. And then you've got this character that doesn't really belong in that kind of a movie. So I think the reason that it didn't work as well as they had hoped is that people were unsatisfied with it on both counts. It wasn't as fun an Ant-Man movie as we've seen previously. And two, the other side being this epic sci-fi saga of battling this villain, that was underwhelming as well. So collectively, you don't have the kind of experience that you hoped to get from either one of those kinds of movies. That's just a theory, but that's how I felt seeing it the second time, because I was looking for that.
Chris, I mean, we saw the numbers come out. We saw the box office results. It basically takes a 70% drop, which is not something we have ever seen out of an MCU film without having a staggering first weekend success. What was your first reaction to seeing the drop that they had? And kind of now as we do the autopsy on it here, what do you attribute that kind of a drop to?
I mean, my first reaction was, ooh, I was very wrong about this, because I was optimistic pre-seeing this movie of, I don't think it'll have a huge drop-off. I think it'll have a reasonable one. Ooh, yikes. I think to Rob's point, it didn't deliver on any of the things we wanted or expected. And obviously, we talk a lot on this show about how you should leave expectations at the door, go into something, completely open. But the third film in a franchise, there are some expectations that you can't leave behind. How your characters behave, the kind of situations they're in. There are those kind of standards. And I would like to say standard instead of expectation. And it didn't meet those for me. I think a lot of people too, the word of mouth on this one, you know, I went into it seeing this mostly because I needed to for this job. But so many people told me, I don't think you're going to like it. I don't think you're going to have a good time. And that's not what you want to be having around the water cooler. You want people to be excited and telling people to go see your movies and everything, right? And most people have been saying, this one's just not really good. It's just pretty meh. There's some fun moments, but for the most part, it doesn't really deliver. And I just think so many people heard that and went, again, I don't really want to sit in a movie theater and spend all this time in there and spend all this money in there if it's just going to be eh.
Yeah. And look, I know I've been going off a lot lately about how I don't think Phase 4 was an utter disaster for Marvel. It was just weaker than everything else they've done. Look, to me, and I remember I was talking to Ann about this just the other day, Kevin Feige has got to find a way to get more directly in control of these movies again. Because ever since he started taking a step back and delegating more, and like there were some movies like Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, he literally said he was completely hands off. Like probably approved some dailies and things like that, but he said, he was pretty much hands off. That he needs to get more involved again. And I think that's part of the reason why we had the announcement from Disney a few weeks ago, or just last week, that they're going to start scaling back a bit. They're going to start reducing that ridiculous, huge flood of content that they've been pouring out, both on Disney Plus and theatrically, and they're going to take a step back. They're going to start to space it out a little bit more. I don't think we're going to go back to the days of 1 or 2 projects a year, but between the theatrical releases and Disney Plus and all that kind of stuff, you can't be putting out 6 or 7 things a year. You just can't maintain that kind of a pace. So again, but I said it before, I will say it again. In as much as the magic seems to be gone, it can come back real fast. I mean, if James Gunn knocks us out of the park with Guardians 3 and it turns out to be even 80% as good as it looks, then all of a sudden, all the enthusiasm is back. It's funny, winning cures everything. But the guys' question is for you. What is your reaction to this, seeing that Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, despite the fact that they're introducing their next big bad in Kang, has taken the biggest second weekend drop-off in Marvel history, despite the fact that it didn't have a massive opening weekend? What do you attribute it to? Is it really just a blip on the radar, nothing to be concerned about? Is it something they should be concerned about? Is it the sky is falling kind of scenario? I don't think it is, but whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down and out of the way, we're going to open up the super chats now and start hearing from you guys and getting your thoughts, theories, and opinions on any or all the topics that we talked about here today. Go ahead and start firing those in now. But before we get to those, we're going to take just a quick second and thank another sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show, Ryan Reynolds' own Mint Mobile. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. If saving more and spending less is one of your top goals for 2023, why are you still paying insane amounts of money every month for your phone bill? Switching to Mint Mobile is the easiest way to save this year. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton with phone plans starting at just $15 a month. You guys know I made the switch over to Mint Mobile a while ago. The process couldn't have been easier, and I can't believe that I am spending less than a third of what I was spending on one of the other major carriers before. By going online only and eliminating the traditional costs of retail, Mint Mobile passes the significant savings on to you. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and switch easily in minutes with eSIM. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to our great friends at Mint Mobile for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show. And again, guys, if you're not on Mint Mobile, you are honestly just throwing money away every month. I have never had better phone service. The prices are incredible. I'm spending less than a third of what I used to spend on my service. So again, check out the link and the promo code down below. All right, guys. With that all down, we are now going to move on and start taking your live questions. So let's jump in there. And we got Taylor stepping in for Chris, who had to make a quick bathroom run. Chris, or I should say, Taylor, what do we have up first?
All right, so first up we have Suthius. We often talk about tropes. This one can be predictable and eye-rolling. one character dies, but patiently waits for the other character to give them a kiss / mouth to mouth before miraculously waking up.
I mean, yeah, that's something that happens all the time, and even without the kiss or mouth to mouth, right? Like, oh, they're gonna die. Oh, they're dying. They're dying. Oh no, we all knew they weren't gonna die. Like
Like
look
The
at
Last
the end.
of Us.
Like even if you go back to the end of the magnificent first Thor movie by Kenneth Branagh, I'm like, oh no, he's laying on the street of the destroyer killed Thor. Oh no, he's of course he's not dead. He's back. Or even Thor again in Infinity War. He's in Nebuchadnezzar, and he's no, not Nebuchadnezzar. He's in is it Nebuchadnezzar that where they forge the axe?
Yeah.
It is Nebuchadnezzar. Okay. Yeah. So he's laying on the floor in there, Nebuchadnezzar, after the sun restarting, all kind of stuff. But of course, the thing flies back to saying like, but yeah, somebody last second, no, I don't give up on you. But yeah, you're right. It is a big trope, and it's one that all TV shows and movies have done. All right, what's next?
From Jay King, I loved that the speeches were able to go on for longer because there were no commercials. James Hong's speech was so moving. Look at us now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the SAG Awards. James Hong is I can't believe he's still kicking. I mean, I've literally been watching that man my entire life.
And he's so good in Everything Everywhere All at Once.
So good.
It's now, I have not seen the SAG Awards, but I mean, yeah, I mean, now one could be tempted to say, well, the Oscars should do something like that. The Oscars is a very expensive thing they need to put on, and they need like, here's the thing. SAG makes their money from the dues being paid every year by the actors, right? The Academy pretty much makes their money from the Oscars.
Yeah.
So they have to have that thing on there, but it is kind of nice. I mean, I wish, I just feel like at the Oscar ceremony, they should be giving everybody a little bit more time to say their bit, remove the stupid music categories, or at least the performances of the music stuff, and just give a little bit more time to breathe, and then educate all the potential all the nominees about, guys, listen, when you get up to that stage, you're not more special than anybody else here. You've got, instead of maybe 25 seconds, you've got 60 seconds now, or 80 seconds, whatever. But guys, be considerate to everybody else who's going to be a winner here tonight too. But anyway, they've got a lot of work they need to do on the Oscars. What's next?
From King Tannic, not likely, but I think there's a chance Everything Everywhere All at Once sweeps and wins all 11 of its noms, making it one of the 4 most Oscar-winning films in history.
Well, I mean, it's going to have a tall order to do that, because there are several of its categories. Again, it is Michelle Yeoh is the underdog right now to Cate Blanchett, but it's not a big underdog anymore. Best Original Screenplay, it's a very small underdog at only plus 110. What was one of the bigger ones that they had? Ki Kwan's going to win.
Best Supporting Actresses, so that can't happen.
Yeah, Best Supporting Actress. Yeah, because Stephanie Sue is a plus 1600. Mm-hmm. So she ain't beating Jamie Lee Curtis or Angela Bassett. So right. I would say the odds of Everything Everywhere All at Once sweeping the 11, extremely, extremely thin. I wouldn't put a dollar on that. All right, what's next?
From The Fault in Our Death Stars, last year on my birthday, I got to see the Batman fan screening. This year, The Mandalorian Season 3 premieres on my birthday. Love these back-to-back birthdays.
That's always a nice thing. And again, Ann told me today, she goes, don't forget, tomorrow night at midnight is the new Mandalorian. I'm like, no, that's not till next week. Oh, damn, it is tomorrow night at midnight. Oh my, this is a good couple of days for me, because yesterday I got to watch The Last of Us. Tonight I'm going to go see Creed 3, and tomorrow we get to watch The Mandalorian. That's a pretty good day if you're a movie and TV fan. All right, what's next?
From Luis Enrique de la Peña, after seeing Quantumania, I'm not as excited to see Kang Dynasty. If Marvel doesn't get its mojo back, could this affect Avengers 5?
Yes.
100%.
100%. Now, don't forget, Avengers 5 is still a ways out. They have a lot of runway still that they can build up the momentum back, get that magic back, get everybody excited again. Mm-hmm. But if you think this is the start they were looking for their Kang Dynasty buildup, this wasn't it. So they have done themselves no favor. They've done themselves. So yes, 100%, like Rob just said, this could absolutely affect Kang Dynasty.
I also think, John, that they need to start bringing in some heavy hitters behind the camera. Like Jeff Loveness is a nice guy, but he hasn't written any feature films. This was his first. Coming out of where they're coming out of, I understand that Kevin Feige's trying to tap some new talent, but I think that we're seeing that some of the new talent it might benefit to bring some more experienced people in, like a Kenneth Branagh, to do something again. I'm just thinking.
Listen, because they have knocked it out of the park, bringing in smaller directors. The Russo brothers, nobody knew who the hell they were, and they brought them in to do this Captain America, Winter Soldier, right? A lot of people did not know who James Gunn was, and they brought him in to do Guardians of the Galaxy.
But those guys had more experience.
Yes, they did.
And
Yep.
even like, where are the directors of Captain Marvel?
Yeah, and
that movie made $1 billion.
They got to start looking at a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
From the People's Champ 2007, do you think they'll right all wrongs from The Last of Us 2 video game in the later seasons of the TV show?
Right all wrongs. Wow, that's a
bold statement.
What wrongs? There were no wrongs. The Last of Us 2 video game is the single most no story is perfect, so I'm using this term loosely. It's the single most perfect story I've ever seen a video game tell. Better than the first Last of Us. So I don't know what mistakes you're talking about, because there weren't any. There's a reason it won all the awards that it won and all that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between a great story and a story that has something that you hate happening in it. I mean, that's and I think a lot of people need to understand and separate themselves from that.
Yeah, but that's true of everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. All right, what's next?
From JMB Gator. First Chernobyl, now Last of Us. What IP would you absolutely go giddy for if you heard Craig Mazin was attached to the project?
Anything. It's not one of those things where this project needs Craig Mazin. It's a situation of whatever Craig Mazin becomes attached to next, that's the next thing to get giddy about. And it can be anything. It can be the Monopoly movie. It can be a Tetris movie. It can be a Lego movie. It can be a Star Wars movie. It can be an MCU movie. It can be a James Bond movie. It doesn't matter at this point. Whatever he gets involved next is the next thing to be excited about.
I've got one. There's a project that's based on a series of books called Hyperion by Dan Simmons. It's one of my favorite science fiction books ever. The first book, Hyperion and Fall of Hyperion, was actually a single book that was cut into those two. Because they've been trying to make it, Martin Scorsese was trying to make it. If they said that Craig Mazin was attached to Hyperion, I would go bananas. Literally, I would be. I would turn into
really
one.
Good.
All right, what's next?
From Jason. I love Denis Villeneuve's movies. His next projects are Cleopatra and Rendezvous with Rama. If you would choose another project for him, what would it be?
Again, I don't do what. Again, it's the same thing. He is a superior director. He is a superior storyteller. Whatever he does, I would be excited about. It doesn't matter what it is. Put whatever project in front of him. That's going to be great. And besides, too, it's like saying, I don't like getting into this thing about, well, there's this upcoming project and I want Denis Villeneuve to do it. And if it's not him, well, then no, I don't do that sort of thing. So, but he's just a next level. He's in the, like I said, he's in the superior table. He's at the table with, with Steven Spielberg. He's at the table with Christopher Nolan. He's one of the best directors in the world. So whatever he does next is something to be excited about.
Agreed.
Tales of the Jedi.
I mean, I'd be excited about that. All right, what's next?
The Fault in Our Death Stars. The CW released a promo of upcoming shows: Riverdale, Gotham Knights, The Flash, Superman and Lois, All American. And Superman and Lois look so out of place there.
Well, apparently, I stopped watching it, but apparently, and I liked what I saw up until a point. And from everything I've heard, it's continued to be quite a good show. Maybe that's why it feels out of place, because it's like really quite good. And also, it for a superhero content, it tries to still maintain itself as just being a family show. A show, not a family-friendly show, but a show about a family.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what makes it feel out of place.
It feels important.
Yeah, but I haven't been watching any of that stuff, so I just don't know at this point. All right, what's next?
From A. Marcellus, sending in a $20 super chat.
Thank you, A. Marcellus.
I like Rob's theory. Qui-Gon had an insight into the Force like no other. He probably foresaw that the Sith would be defeated. He figured, due to Grogu's longevity, that he could lead a new Jedi Order long after Rey or Luke.
Ooh, that's not a bad.
I like that. That was more thought out than even I was bringing it.
Because when you brought up Qui-Gon, of course, the first thought in my head was, well, why wouldn't he save other children? Like, why, with all these little children getting scorched and all that kind of stuff?
Were they as cute?
What's that?
Were they as cute?
Well, obviously not. But I mean, the idea that he could only save one, and if he could only save one, the one who has the potential to do more down the road, that's not a bad theory. I like that.
Yeah, I like it too. I was just thinking that the living force is more connected, like Yoda's race, whatever they're called, is more force sensitive just because of who and what they are to the rest of the force. So it was actually the living force reaching out in the form of Qui-Gon to offer aid where the younglings didn't have that connection.
So what? During our first break, Chris brought up a name, and I hate myself.
Voldemort.
Hate myself for bringing this up.
It's
but
so good, but bad.
it makes sense. Who rescued Grogu from the purge in the Jedi Temple?
You're going to say this, you're going to cause a whole ruckus
I
on the
know,
internet.
and I hate it. I don't know, Chris, if you came up with this, you said somebody
I
that
saw someone put it in the chat as a joke, I think as a joke, and then I went, "Oh God damn it, that'd be so good, actually."
yeah, and I can't. I hate myself. I'm going to say it, but it's Jar Jar Binks, and as what a picture to pick for it, but it actually narratively would make sense.
It's a very Star Wars thing to do.
It would be, because think
Redeeming.
about this. Remember, Jar Jar, what was he doing at the time of the purge? He was an acting senator. He was in the Senate. He would have his ear to the ground about what was going on, and may have been maybe rushing over to the Jedi Temple just to see his friend Annie, or whatever,
to offer aid.
Well,
and then saw this little thing and got him out. Listen, I'm just saying, I'm not saying I love it, but it makes sense.
And
And he disguised himself as
you have him
Anakin.
too. He runs in there, right?
He's a Sith Lord.
He sees Anakin doing this.
He would be horrified.
He's helped position Anakin
Yes,
to
that's
where
right,
he
because of
is.
what he did with
He's
Palpatine.
horrified by what's happening. He saves Grogu. He can save one creature, right? And then it leads into that novel that you've talked about too. So we have that for
That's
season
right.
4 of seeing this broken Jar Jar who's just, I ruined everything. I ruined
everybody hates him.
everything. And having that moment of just like, oh, at least I did one good thing by saving Grogu.
Because listen, that oh my God, I love that image. There again, the novel, I'm trying to remember the name of the novel that it was, but there's one of the Star Wars novels that came out in recent years. They do a quick cutaway, like that really isn't connected to the rest of the story, and it just kind of tells a story about what happens to Jar Jar afterwards. And even if you are a supreme Jar Jar hater like I am, it breaks your heart, because Jar Jar ends up as a broken street performer that everybody hates because he gets blamed for being the senator that puts forward that they should give Palpatine, the Supreme Chancellor, executive powers, wartime powers, which of course leads to the Empire and all that kind of stuff. And it really is heartbreaking, because look, think what you will about Jar Jar, right? Awful mistake. But as a character, Jar Jar is just a guy who wanted people to be happy and always wanted to do the right thing, wanted to protect people, wanted to be happy and to have joy. And there was not a bad bone in Jar Jar's body, right?
He just wanted to stop helping.
Yeah, but he just needs to stop helping. So, I mean, the idea that Jar Jar ends up just being Johnny on the spot and sees what's going on in the temple and sees this Grogu creature and it's the one that gets Grogu out. Listen, I'm telling you what, I'm as big of a Jar Jar hater as anybody else in the world. But narratively speaking, this fits. I'm not saying it's what they're going to do, but it wouldn't be the dumbest thing in the world. I'm just saying. All right, what's next? He's a Sith Lord.
From the man with no name. Going to Regal's mystery movie tonight. Hopefully it'll be Creed 3 or Scream 6, but if it's Tetris, I won't be mad.
Tetris makes sense because it isn't. Oh, no. Tetris is a series, though, is it not?
I think it's a movie.
Oh, it
we
is a
thought
movie.
it was a series. It's a movie.
Okay, so it is a movie. So that makes sense because they've had a couple of the mystery screenings and they've ended up being Apple Plus movies. So that makes sense. I don't think it's going to be Creed 3 because Creed 3 is doing special fan screenings already tonight. That's why me and Ray and Ann are going to go see it tonight. So I don't know that it would be a mystery screening. I think you're probably right. It's probably Tetris. Probably Tetris. I would love for Regal's Monday mystery movies to actually become legit movies again. Like something that people came out of it going, oh my God, they showed us Guardians 3. Or oh my God, like they got to bring the excitement back to the mystery movie. Because I remember I was so excited about my first Regal Night mystery movie and it was the freaking greatest beer run.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, come on. This is what we came out for. I mean, they got to bring the excitement back to that. All right, what's next?
From Canada Rocks, Last of Us was filmed throughout Alberta.
Yep.
The mall is Northland Mall in Calgary.
Oh.
The mall closed down in 2021 just before filming started.
Oh, probably,
And the
yeah, it was a
outbreak.
victim of the COVID. I now remember hearing about it. It was a victim of the COVID stuff. The mall
Different
got shut
outbreak.
down, so they had it there. They could do practical. Boy, I'll tell you what, that was. I love moments when you as an audience member can feel the awe of the character in the movie. And when those lights come on in the mall and you see Bella, by the way, how good is Bella Ramsey?
She's
Incredible.
great.
When you see her reaction to just seeing this, something she never would have seen before in her life,
That's
you felt it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that about the episode.
Oh. All right, what's next?
From Jay King. Oh, from Jeff. Even when Last of Us is slow, it tells a rich character-driven story. Marvel needs that. They're relying on whiz-bang CGI and needle drops. Agree or no?
I think it's part of it. I think that's part of it. I think when you go back and you look at things like, look, you could just go back not long ago. You go back to Shang-Chi, another movie that was in phase 4. Like this great story about a son who ran from his father and the father who was just a supremely broken man from the loss of the love of his life, and how that brokenness got passed on to his own children and how he treated his own children, and a desperation to get back that love of his. I mean, you even go back to that, just filled rich. With this, the teasers made it sound like, the trailers made it sound like there was a little bit of the net, man. Hey, Scott is going to try to get back lost time with his daughter, to be a part of his daughter's life. But that was never a part of the movie.
No.
It was just, oh, we're in a dangerous situation. We got to get out of it. And that was it. So I wouldn't say that's the de facto problem, but that certainly wouldn't hurt, man. Like what you're suggesting certainly wouldn't hurt. All right, what's next?
From Jay King. We are not all Chinese, but Jamie Lee. Lee is a good Chinese name. That was a great moment at the SAG Awards.
Oh, I didn't see that.
When James Hong's doing his part of the acceptance speech, he tells Jamie Lee that she's basically like an honorary part of their
Jamie Lee
family. And
Curtis.
it was so cute.
Oh, I like that. That's cute. Oh, he's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what's next?
From Jamie Rell, Fast 11 Velocifast Tyrannosaurus. Family is primal. Send Rob the script. Do it right now. That's
I'll
perfect.
read that.
You know, you got a director friend who was in my movie Trailers of Love Story. Michael
Davis.
Michael Davis, who directed a terrific movie called Shoot 'Em Up with Clive Owen. I love and Paul
Shoot 'Em Up's
Giamatti.
fun.
It's so fun.
I love that movie. But he does a lot of animation now. Tell him to make that animated film. That would be fun. I would see that.
He's doing an animated Blast 'em Up now. He's doing a
Yes,
sequel
that's
to
right.
Shoot 'em
He's
Blast
working on that right now.
Yep.
All right, what's next?
From Dominic Sima, I rewatched the first Ant-Man this weekend, and it made me dislike Quantumania more. I never want to hear the words quantum realm in a Marvel film again. Oof.
Yeah, I mean, look, the quantum realm became a very important part of especially once you got into Endgame, Endgame, the ramification of what the quantum realm, what it represents and what it can do. But it's kind of, the quantum realm has almost become to Marvel kind of like Iron Man's armor. Like in Iron Man 1, there was very definitive things and parameters about what an Iron Man suit of armor can do. By the time you got to Infinity War and Endgame, the Iron Man armor is just magic. It could do whatever it is you needed it to do right now. The storytellers need, Tony needs to fix that hole in his stomach. Well, I know the Iron Man armor has magical foam in it and it can spray and heal up his, I mean, it just became a ridiculous catch-all magical item that could do anything the writers needed it to do at any given time. The quantum realm is kind of becoming that a little bit. You need it to help you adjust the time stream. Quantum realm can do that. You need it to adjust a prison that you can keep an intergalactic tyrant. Yeah, the quantum realm can do that. I mean, and by the way, the time passing stuff has been very inconsistent about what happens in the quantum realm as well. It just seems like they're treating it like that. So I don't know what they do with it now.
I
In
also
the quantum
think-
realm, though, they explained that, right? They said where they were there, time, it was like it was another level. So it wasn't like the layers above where you can go through time faster or slower. So it just moved at the same pace.
I guess.
Also, like-
again, they can just say anything they want to about. Oh no, I can. So they're
Well,
kind
so
of
does
making
Star
this thing
Trek.
they can be
I mean,
whatever it
you
is they
think
need
warp
it to be.
speed's real?
But I also think, you know what they've done? I had the same problem with Thor Love and Thunder. It's a goof. Like the quantum realm was kind of goofy. I mean, when I'm there, the way it looked, the way it felt, the denizens that live there, all the people, I'm like, it wasn't cool. And like Thor Love and Thunder could have been like a Game of Thrones. You know, all the villains were badass. The God Butcher was really terrifying. And they didn't, it was so goofy when they went into the, what's the name of the city in Thor Love and Thunder? You know, the first city.
The City of the Gods? Or?
Yeah, that city was goofy.
Oh, you just lost your ticket to the orgy. Zeus is taking it back.
I got my thoughts on Thor Love and Thunder too, but I loved everything in the City of the Gods. I loved everything that happened there, except for maybe Bao, the god of dumplings. That was the one.
That was a little silly.
Oh.
It was cartoony. It was like, what?
All right, what's next?
From Jeff. Did you see that Jeff Loveness joked that he might lose his job as the writer for Avengers Kang Dynasty? Not to be mean, but Phase 4 writing, woof.
Phase 4, the writing of Phase 4 has been hit and miss. I think there's some really good examples of some good writing in Phase 4. There's some examples of bad writing in Phase 4. But there are other problems in Phase 4 as well. I do believe, again, listen, I'm not the guy who goes, fire this person as the writer and fire
Right.
like I am not that guy. I hope for nothing but great things for Jeff Loveness. I want to see him be able to develop as a writer, get more opportunities, and build up and have a great, successful career. But we are talking about the flagship franchise of the flagship IP in all of movies, the Avengers movies. And Jeff, he has not enough experience to be doing an Avengers movie. And the first bit of feature film experience we've had him do, I'm sorry, but was a swing and a miss. So I'm not saying Jeff Loveness can't be that guy. I'm just saying Jeff Loveness is not that guy yet. I'm not saying he can't be it. I'm not saying he can't go on and have a fabulous career and really develop and write some wonderful movies. I'm not saying he can't do that. But I'm saying he is not the guy right now to be writing the next flagship film of the biggest films of all time in the Avengers movies. He must be replaced.
I mean, think about it from a corporate standpoint. You know, you've got, if you look at the grosses of those Avengers movies, 1.5 billion, then more, 2 billion, almost $3 billion. Jeff Loveness has written one feature film that had the biggest drop in the whole franchise history in the second week. How do you convince any money people that are expecting another $2 to $3 billion grossing film that this is the guy that should write this movie?
The only thing that can is if Feige goes to Iger and says, this is the best script we've ever had for an Avengers movie. Like if Feige sees the script and then he believes it and he goes to Iger and then Iger goes to the investors and says, hey, Kevin Feige says this is the best script we've ever had for an Avengers movie, I think that would carry a lot of weight, but I don't see that happening.
No, and I think even worse, they're trying to tee up our interest in, I think they've really damaged Kang.
Yeah.
Like, why do I care? You know, if Kang was an ongoing threat, now there's this variant, that variant, I just don't care. I love Jonathan Majors. I thought he did a great job. But I am not convinced that the Kang character is anybody that's going to carry enough weight to make me care about Avengers Kang Dynasty.
All right, what's next?
From Braden Clark, excuse me. Do you think Mahershala Ali has any shot to catch Katharine Hepburn's record for most Oscar wins? He's at 2 and only 49 years old.
Does Katharine Hepburn have the current record of, I don't know how many, let's look that up. How many Oscar wins is Katharine Hepburn? I know he'll never catch The Street Monster for most nominations. I don't think any actor is ever going to catch Meryl Streep for nominations, but Meryl's won a couple. But how many has she won?
Katharine Hepburn's won 4.
1-4. It's theoretically possible. Listen, winning 1 is an incredibly difficult feat. Winning 2 is crazy impressive. By the way, another guy who won back-to-back, well, not quite back-to-back, but won 2 in rapid succession Best Supporting Actor nominations, Christoph Waltz.
Right.
Christoph Waltz is another guy that I would not put past winning another couple of Oscars if given the right roles.
And Tom Hanks won them for Forrest Gump and Philadelphia.
Yeah, and Tom Hanks won them for Best Lead Actor. I'm going to say no, Mahershala Ali will not catch Hepburn because it's winning any one Academy Award is monumentally difficult, but it's certainly not outside of the realm of possibility. He's great. He's fabulous. All right, what's next?
Feels like you timed it
I
perfectly.
tried so hard.
From Dwayne Cinema. The goal is to spread the films out for better VFX quality. But what happens when we get more time in between MCU films and still have bad VFX?
I don't think I personally do not look at any Marvel film and see bad VFX.
No.
The idea about, listen, the spreading the films out is going to be accomplishing multiple things. I think the primary reason they're spreading films out is to get the overall quality control of the movies under thing. Put less thing on Kevin Feige's docket. They can put more of their focus and attention on individual projects by having, say, 4 come out a year instead of 7, right? Big difference. One of the other things, though, is for visual effects, but it's not the quality of the visual effects. It's to give the visual effects artists just more time. And because there's been a lot of talk recently about the inhuman rapid pace with all the projects that are out there today, not just Marvel, with all the projects now that leverage, even television shows now leveraging huge visual effects things. The visual effects artists and companies are being run absolutely into the ground and run rapid. So, I mean, there's a part of that as well, but I don't think, I can't point to any MCU film and say, well, the visual effects in that movie were really bad. I don't think that's been the case.
I also think people mistake obvious visual effects for bad visual effects. Like the Quantum Realm is all visual effects.
Yes.
But it doesn't have a naturalistic quality to it. The colors and everything, it doesn't look quote unquote real.
Right, but it looked the way it was supposed to look.
Yeah, it looked the way, and that's the difference when people don't make that distinction.
I
And I
agree.
understand why.
I think you're absolutely right about that. All right, what's next?
From Emma Murdoch. To Chris's point, Ant-Man's trilogy feels so incomplete. The other MCU trilogies served their characters well, and those sub-franchises hold up on their own.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
See, even when you, like, a lot of people will call Captain America Civil War like Avengers 2.5, and I understand why, I do, but it is still definitively a Captain America movie, and it brings his character story arc as always at the center of it, right? Ant-Man 3 did not feel like that. It did not feel like the continuation of Scott's story. It feels like we're now going to take this character and bring it into a completely kind of different story because this is the character that's most tied to the quantum realm. And that's where we're going to have Kang coming out of.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. It did not feel, and listen, the movie still could have been great on its own, even doing that, but it's like another departure for them.
I agree.
All right, what's next?
From Jason, movie trivia. HAL 9000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey was named after IBM. Just take the previous letter from IBM and get HAL.
That's true.
I didn't know. Is that a true thing?
That's true.
Oh, that's actually a pretty cool little bit of trivia. I never knew that. I never heard that. All right. I'm afraid I can't do that, Dave. All right, what's
From
next?
Dr. Stinky, Ant-Man 3 is top MCU for me. 9 out of 10. Happy birthday, John.
Oh, thank you. And listen, and that's the beautiful thing about movies. Listen, there are people who came out of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania who had a very good time.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing about movies, right? It's all subjective. Movies hit us all in different ways. And listen, I wish it hit me better than it did because I love the Ant-Man character and I love the MCU. But it didn't, and that's fine. But that shouldn't prevent anybody else from it hitting you in a really great way. And if it did, that's awesome, and I'm glad to hear it. All right, what's next?
From A. Marcellus. So today, the Pokemon Company had a video about upcoming news. The long-awaited Netflix show is just a stop-motion animation show called Pokemon Concierge.
I knew very little about that.
Apparently, it's National Pokemon Day.
It is Pokemon Day.
Pokemon Day?
Turns 27 years
Yeah.
old today.
The same age as Taylor and I.
Yeah.
Wow.
The same age.
Same age, I
No
tell
one
you.
question it.
I insist, same age. I'm not going to pretend that I follow Pokemon news. I don't. I don't care that much about Pokemon. I'm very curious to see them doing a Detective Pikachu 2 because I had some enjoyment from the
Yeah.
first one, but I'm not going to pretend that I follow Pokemon stuff.
Oh, man.
All right, what's
Gonna
next?
Go home and play so much Pokemon Snap. It's so soothing. Daniel Breen. Do I need to see Crystal Skull before Indy 5?
No.
Well, considering none of us have seen Indy 5, we can't answer that question. My assumption is probably going to be no, you don't. That's going to be my guess. All right, what's next?
From In My Humble Opinion Reviews, I'm really blown away by the response to Quantumania. I've seen it 3 times and loved it. Could this be a case where people might come to like it later, like they did with Eternals?
It's
personally,
possible.
no.
I don't think so.
I don't either.
Like
Well,
there's
I don't know necessarily. Sorry to cut you off, but I think it's that found new audiences. I don't think it meant that people that saw it in the theater hated it and loved it on streaming, right?
I have talked to a
Oh,
lot
yeah?
of people who like for me, it was also like Man of Steel or Avengers Infinity War. Not Avengers Infinity, Avengers Age of Ultron. Like, that was a movie that the more I watched, the more I started to appreciate it. Like a Man of Steel, the more I watched it, the more I started to appreciate it. Eternals was another movie that the more I watched, the more I appreciate it. The people who I've talked to, including you just brought up yourself, the people who I know who weren't really thrilled with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, who have seen it multiple times, Rob, you being one of them, didn't like it anymore the second time you saw it. And I think that's one of the things. So I do not anticipate that that's going to be one of those movies. Like with Eternals was such a wildly different movie than what anybody was used to with the MCU.
Right.
In tone and DNA and everything. It was a very, very different kind of movie that it was at least positioned that it could be one of those movies that people, once they got over the fact that this was a very un-MCU-like movie, that people may appreciate it more. And we've seen that. I would love for that to happen. I would love for that to happen with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania for myself. I would love to feel that way. I don't see it happening, though. Rob, what do you think? As somebody who has seen it multiple times.
No, I agree with you. I don't think that there's like, the thing about Eternals is the individual scenes between the characters, especially, are meaningful. It doesn't quite, because the whole thing with the deviants is just kind of weird. It's bizarre. It doesn't fit with what else is going on. But the rest of it, it has meaning, and I enjoy watching Eternals. This movie more annoyed me than anything else. And I kept thinking to myself, there would have been better ways to introduce Kang than this. And it wasn't really what I liked about Ant-Man movies. I mean, they put him in a situation, you're watching him go through the paces, but it wasn't what I liked about the first two Ant-Man films, which I thought were charming. This movie was not charming.
All right, what's next?
I liked it.
And you're not alone. You're not alone. Listen, go over to Rotten Tomatoes. Look at the audience, the verified audience rating. A lot of people had a good time. They're just not going back to see it multiple times, and they're not telling other people to go see it. That's the problem. All right, what's next?
From Daniel Hyun, John, Ray is a good American kid. Also, let's go Rangers.
Ray is a good American kid. He was not born here, though. Both Ray and I are the two people in the room.
Talking about the Star Wars Ray.
No,
you Ray. Both Ray and I are the two people in the room who are currently in the States, but neither of us are actually born here. I was born in Canada. Ray was born in the Philippines. And here we are. But a good American kid nonetheless. All right, what's next?
Let's see. I think we're on Zach Larson. Here we go.
Okay. From Zach Larson, can you best describe what cinematography is?
Well, the cinematography is what the cinematographer shoots.
It's what you see through the lens of the camera.
It's where you point the camera.
And what each image is.
All right, what's next?
From Jamal B. Castro, over under 50% Michelle Pfeiffer makes a cameo as Catwoman in The Flash.
That'd be dope.
I'm gonna say under, but not like 5%. I think it's like over 5%, over 10. But I wouldn't say it's a coin toss. So very well could happen, but I'll say under 50.
I think we're gonna see her. I think
So you're
under
gonna
52,
go over 50.
but I'm going no.
You can't say you can't say under 50% and say we're going to see
I'm
it.
gonna go over 50.
Okay. Over 50. What about you, Chris?
I want them to give me Danny DeVito as the Penguin.
Yeah.
Do it, you cowards. Do it.
I want Ki-Hu Kwan in Indy 5. It's like, come on.
Yeah, I think that was too late. I mean, the whole rush of this, but that would be fun too. All right, what's next?
From Don J. Arnold's new show Fubar means effed up beyond all repair.
Yes, it does. Again, go back to, there's this old, I don't know if it was a Canadian-made movie. I think it's an American-made movie. The old movie in the 90s, Fubar, which is kind of like a little cult classic. You should check it out if you get a chance.
They use that word a lot in Tango and Cash, too.
Oh, yeah. It's Fubarred.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
From Strong Nerd, I think Ant-Man 3 was better than Thor 4. I think expectations were high with Kang, in my opinion.
The funny thing is, I don't disagree that the expectations with Kang were high, but that's one of the areas they delivered on the expectations, right? Was Kang. I think that's, again, I don't think Ant-Man 3 is a terrible movie.
No.
I just think it was disappointing. I don't think it was a good movie, but not terrible, had some things that worked for it. With Thor Love and Thunder, to me, it's close. I actually enjoyed Thor Love and Thunder, but I had a lot of issues with it. So yeah, honestly, Ant-Man 3 and Thor Love and Thunder, I think are almost interchangeable. It's very, very close to me. Like right now, I give Thor 4 a little bit of an edge because I had a little bit more entertainment out of it. But ask me again in 6 weeks, I might say Ant-Man 3 was a little bit better than Thor 4, but it's pretty close. All right, what's next?
And ending with some support from Irene Jobson. Thanks, Irene.
Oh, thank you so much, Irene. And guys, That'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making this show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those super chats. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. Once again, don't forget to come back and join us today at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for our Last of Us Episode 7 open spoiler after show. We hope to see you guys there. And again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, click the thumbs up button, leave a comment down below. All that stuff helps support our channel and send our videos out to an even wider audience. And make sure you guys come back and join us again for the John Campea Show tomorrow. And keep your guys' eyes open for my Creed 3 out of theater reaction coming a little bit later tonight. So, for everybody in the room, writer, director, producer, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, Ray Ora, good American kid, sitting back there, Daniel Levy himself, Taylor Gonzalez coming, Jonathan Voico running the show, and of course, voice coach, performer extraordinaire herself, Chris Carr. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye. With the script. Rob.
Wow, dude. I don't. That's, look at that.